is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Jeremy Lee in the building and every guest that you ever needed. Sports cards after hours keep the hobby heated. Updates, hobby talk like you never seen it. Sports cards live and none could ever beat it. Sports cards is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Welcome to another episode of Sports Cards Live with your host, Jeremy Lee.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 254 of Sports Cards Live. It is Saturday night, January the 18th, 2025, and my name is Jeremy Lee. Guys, tomorrow night on the channel, Fanatics Collect Hockey Auction Watch Party with Josh Madigan of The Gong Show, followed up by Monday night, MC Mondays Showcase Live is back. That is a fun show, tons of action. Check it out here on the channel. Myself and the crystal ball, Mr. Michael Hathaway, will be calling the action. I want to let you guys know about two episodes I just did this past week here on the channel. First of all, Fund Your Cards. We did the Fund Your Cards show with Mark Sadov. We had a really fun episode here on this past Thursday and this past Tuesday. A brand new auction company in the sports card memorabilia space called Miller & Miller. We did a live stream with one of the founders and the guy who is heading up the sports card memorabilia auction. Check it out. They have some really cool pieces, one of which I'm hoping to land and have shipped right back here to the Sports Cards Live studio. Guys, if you are looking to add a grail to your collection, make sure you check out Fund Your Cards. They are the hobby's leading consolidator. They will help you finance the purchase of your grail with your own cards. Visit fundyourcards.com, and there you will find their proprietary client platform portal that cements them as the leaders in this space. And again, check out the episode I had with Mark back on Thursday. Also, Mint Inc. is a leading hobby brand in Canada. Guys, check out their two Toronto locations. Their online shopping. They have worldwide shipping. They do live streams, shopping, auctions, grading, breaking, and more. Their primary focus is to bring the ultimate hobby experience to collectors in Canada, mintinc.ca. And if you'd like to sell your cards on eBay, but you want the pros to handle it for you, reach out to me and I can help you consign your cards with Slab Sharks. Hit me up on Instagram or send me an email to jeremy@slabsharks.com. Leighton Sheldon from Just Collect will be joining us in about half an hour's time, as well as a bevy of other guests, you guys. And this show is available on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Follow, subscribe for free. Leave a rating or review if you don't mind. And thank you very much for that. And thank you, as always, to all of our loyal viewers and listeners. Your continued support is much appreciated. Please subscribe if you have not yet done so. And as always, your comments, your questions will be in play. All right, let's bring out Mr. Joe Poirot in Santa Cruz. There's the man. How are you, buddy? Oh, no. There we go. How are you?
I'm loose. Yeah, I'm doing well, Jay Lee. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good, man. I'm feeling the energy. I don't know. I was at the local monthly card show today. I was set up taking in consignments for Slab Sharks, looking around. I didn't pick up. Oh, I did buy one card. I'm like, oh, I didn't pick up a card. I picked up a pretty cool Alexander Ovechkin rookie card today. It's from a lower end brand, MVP, but it's the gold out of 100 in a PSA 9 holder. I thought that was pretty cool, but the show was busy. They went to 2 floors instead of 1. They put all the TCG upstairs, which cleared out the room downstairs for the sports guys. It was pretty cool. I had a good day. So I'm just feel like I'm full of energy right now. How about you? How are you? How are things hanging for you?
Doing pretty well, thanks. Big sports night with all the NFL games, and the Warriors are getting their behinds handed to them by it's the Jordan Poole revenge party. Dre went out early with the calf strain, but all that's happening behind me. I'm excited about who we have on tonight. We've got, YouTube content luminaries coming on. So I'm pretty fired up for the show.
I'm excited. We've got Cajun Cardboard coming on. We've got Leighton Sheldon. We got Troy Reich. Trike Cards is coming on. We got Billy Celio from Upper Deck. He'll let us know a little bit about what happened at the CDD conference, which is the Certified Diamond Dealer Conference. So we'll hear it right from the inside of Upper Deck there. We've got Chris HOJ from Card Ladder coming on. He's going to come on pretty much every Saturday. He's going to back clean up. He'll be coming on towards the end. Although I do think Billy's coming on after him. I got to check my schedule once again. But we are going to have a really fun show tonight. I can't wait. And so two things I wanted to talk about here. And this is a bit different, guys. Before I go to comments and before Cajun comes on, we're expecting him in about 10 minutes, you guys. I want to share something I bought from a card artist. I bought it on Instagram from Zach Nygett, who is Collector Creative. So I don't know if you've seen him on Instagram, Joe, but I'm sure many of you guys have. Let me just show you. I ordered one of his gold one-of-ones. And this was like back in, I don't know, one of his early ones, October, November. I picked it up when I was on vacation in Arizona from my family's mailbox down there. And I received this in the mail. Okay, this is what I have. Now actually the card's over there. I'm going to grab that after. But here's I want to show you guys what this guy offers you when you buy a card from him. Okay, you get this box, you open it up, and you can see you've got all sorts of like information on the inside of the box. And again, I'm just showing you this. This is not like a commercial or anything, guys. I'm just sharing with you what is possible in the world of, custom card art. Then you get this. Okay, so lots of packaging, just like in a high-end product. I'm going to pull out this. So you've got this now. It's it's a very nice box. And you open it up. Hold on, Joe. It's right over here.
Is this a magic trick? Are we doing a box within a box within a box?
Yeah, well, that's what we do in this hobby. We are packaging experts in this hobby. So you open it up and you get this. So you open it up and this is what you see. You get this little envelope and it's got a certificate of authenticity. It also has a package of the Collector Creative stickers if you want. And then what you see is this. There's this nice felt, almost like a microfiber. And you open that up and here's how it presents, like this. And then I can take the card out of this inlay there. It's really elaborate. And this is what I ended up purchasing. It's what he's calling the Big Three. It's a gold rare foil, one-of-one. And it's obviously, you can read that. It says Chicago, Jordan, Pippen, and Rodman. And, it uses that same superfractor kind of card stock. There's the back signed. Now, listen, it's like a custom card, but it's a really cool one. And he does an amazing job in the presentation and just, that sort of perceived value that you get. So I just wanted to show you guys because I thought it was really cool. I want to support him. Zach's a really nice guy. He's got a great podcast, the Collector Creative channel, and check it out. And it's just a really neat collectible that is, it's unlicensed and all that, but I don't know. I wonder, I just think there's these guys that are doing this kind of work with sports cards. I think they have something, I think they're onto something there. And Zach does superheroes and he does Star Wars and obviously sports, but I just thought it was cool. It's also his first sport one-of-one gold. So I thought that was a neat thing to get. And he had me on his podcast. We had a great time. Anyway, I just wanted to share that. Kind of a neat piece. What did you think?
Oh, it's pretty. You said it was one-of-one?
Yeah. He does like these 13-piece drops where 12 of them are offered for sale, and then he does an auction for the gold one-of-one rare foil. And the other 12 offer 12 items that you can purchase are usually they're in 3 or 4 different colors, and it's just randomly assigned. So there'll be 3 of each or whatever. But it's neat. It's just neat stuff, and he's a nice guy. And anyway, let's say hello to who we have in the chat. Hobby Champs was here first, but third. Show des cartes. What's going on? Show des cartes. Jacob Dahl, Linda's first son, Michael. What is going on? Kung Fury. Good evening. Jason Pringle is back, and the Flames beat the Jets. That's a big win. What's up, Foul Ball? Jeremy Yelia Williams is here. CRT Sports Cards. Guys, check out all these YouTube channels of all these people in here. We'll start with, I think CRT is the first one so far. Dave Archbell from Hamilton, Ontario. What's going on? Al Terwell from Waxstat is in the house. What's going on, Alan? Andrew Gogan, hello to you. Perchy is here. Check out Perchy's YouTube channel. Check out Mike Double V's YouTube channel. Joe is Sports Card Live's Ed McMahon. I'm okay with that, Joe. How about you?
I mean, dating us all, but sure. I'll roll with it. Paul Schaefer, maybe a little closer, but yeah.
Yeah, you just got to start, playing the piano, right? tapping the keys. Laura, good evening to you. What's going on? Robert Scott, good to see ya. Yeah, man is here, guys. It was good to see you today at the show, Mo. He says TCG section was packed. Couldn't even see the tables. I didn't even go up there. I could just look up and see how busy it was. Ben Diamond, good to see you. Welcome to the show. The Merchant of Cool. Joe, does the fire in Moss Landing concern you at all?
It does. I mean, it's right across. I can walk down the block and see a lithium battery plant on fire and exploding. Yeah, people are very concerned about the environmental impact of that. So thanks for asking, Merchant of Cool. And it's I don't know what else to say. I mean, the times are crazy on planet Earth these days.
No doubt. That's for sure. Well, stay safe, buddy. Stay safe. Hobby Champ says Jaden Daniels to the moon. Parks and Attic Sports Cards. You have a question? Put it in the chat. What's up, Orlando Collector's Dream? Great to see you as always. Yankees fan. Yeah, it is a great package. Michael Ham, who's been on the show before, check out his YouTube channel, guys, and check out Orlando's YouTube channel, A Collector's Dream. Michael Ham. And by the way, Dustin, the sports card dad, today released his video nominating people for the YouTube Hall of Fame. And it just reminded me, he nominated Orlando from Collector's Dream. He nominated Michael Ham, and he nominated Sports Cards Live. So a big thank you to Dustin for that. Joe Poirot got a special call out on that video as well. Daniel A., what is going on, buddy? What's going on? Skeppy is here. Ben Burrows from Collect is here. What's up, Ben? Can't wait to get you back on soon. Kamikaze. Jordan Talk coming from Cajun. Cajun's bringing some heat today, guys. That's all I'm going to tell you right now. Tip of the mitt. Good evening to you. The professor is here. Hobby Champ says this lineup is crazy. Trike, Cajun, HOJ, and Jay Lee are 4 of my all-time favorite YouTubers. Well, that's very flattering. Thank you, Hobby Champs. Mookie Chilson is in the house. What's going on, Mookie? Dan's Vintage, another YouTube channel to check out, is here. All right. Joe, one thing I do before we bring on Mr. Cajun Cardboard. So we talked last week about that Joe Sakic PSA 10 rookie card, the O-Pee-Chee, and I beat the crap out of that thing here on the show. Deservedly so.
You did.
I didn't know whose it was. I didn't even look down into the auction to see that the seller happened to be in my hometown where I live here in Calgary. I didn't even realize that until someone pointed it out on the live stream. And then someone also told me whose it was. And I realized that this is something that I know I don't know this guy pretty well, but I know this guy. Like, I've been in contact with him. You know, he'll send me emails with questions, and I've helped him build out his collection just by giving him advice.
Yep.
So I felt a little bit bad after that, just because I had a personal connection, but I was glad I did it because, anyway, I sent him an email. I go, hey, I kicked the crap out of your Sakic card on the show last night. Give me a call when you have a chance. So he called me, and he had actually watched the show late night after we stopped the stream. And he says to me, he goes, as soon as you started talking, he goes, I knew it was going to be my Sakic card. And anyway, the story goes is that he bought it early on in his collecting career. As soon as it landed, he realized it wasn't quite, up to PSA 10 standards, and he decided he didn't want to keep it anymore. So he's tried to sell it. And we talked about it. He's actually now opened up a case with PSA for their guarantee because the card just it's not a Gem Mint 10. So I was asked to keep the audience apprised of the situation, and he is, as I mentioned, he is not. I invited to come on the show. He's not coming on the show. He's a very private person. He's a very professional person who just doesn't want to be on YouTube, let's say, and with very understandable. So, like, legit. And some people, and there's people in the chat right now who I've invited on the show who have turned me down because of similar reasons. So it makes sense. In any event, he's talking to PSA. I haven't had an update since he opened his case, but I will keep you guys posted as that happens. Dan's Vintage had a long day at the White Plains show today. Mookie Chilson, lots of squeezing through the aisle. Hope you guys had a great time at your shows today, wherever you may have been. The Dallas show is happening right now. All right, Joe. Let's do it. Let's bring on to the show none other than, give me a thumbs up. Are you ready, Mr. Cajun Cardboard? He's giving me the nod. We are going to bring on right now none other than Mr. Brian of Cajun Cardboard. What is up, buddy? Welcome to the show.
What's up? How are you guys doing, Joe? Jeremy, what's going on?
Yeah, doing good, brother. Doing good. It's good. It's good to have you on the show. And you're always so gracious, inviting me onto your show and offering to collaborate. And your channel has blown up in this past year. You've done a great job with your Jordan hierarchy and among other things, bringing on great guests. So I'm glad to have you, Brian. Thanks for coming on. I don't want to just jump right into that topic that we're going to talk about, because I think people do want to hear a little bit about, your basketball card, your love for basketball cards and all that. So without getting your history, because, you guys can go watch Brian on the Cajun Cardboard YouTube channel, find out everything you need to know. But I'm just curious, like, where are you right now in your collecting? Are you a buyer? Are you a seller? Are you consolidating? Are you exploring other types of collectibles besides Jordans? Give us a quick synopsis.
Oh man, that's great. A snapshot of what's going on in my collecting life. Well, the first thing I'll tell you is, the first thing I noticed when I came on here is I'm looking above your head. I'm looking above Joe's head. You got like 13 sponsors. So that makes me know that, like, I'm in the presence of greatness, right? You got everybody that wants Sports Cards Live to be an affiliate partner with them. So first of all, appreciate you having me on. I've told you on numerous occasions, I'm 100% at your service. If you ever want me on, all you got to do is say yes. Here I am on a Saturday night. Mrs. Cajun's at home, much to her chagrin. I'm spending Saturday night with you boys, right? So first of all, thank you for having me on here. A snapshot of what's going on with me. 2024 was, I would call it, the year of transition for my personal collecting, Jeremy. As much as I hate the C word, consolidation, I basically will use, in another word we don't use very often is transition. That's probably not the best word for it either, but how about a conversion of non-Jordan stuff to more Jordan stuff? I really did. I put all my chips in, man. And I sold a lot of cards in 2024. Some Jordan duplicates, some Jordan lower graded stuff, and then a hellacious amount of non-Jordan stuff to buy more Jordan stuff. It's really that simple. That's what my 2024 was. Cards had a nice year, I thought. The cards that I collect, the cards that I care about at least. So that's kind of what my 2024 was. Get out of non-Jordan stuff, get back into Jordan stuff, and then so sort of reassess where I'm at, and then just kind of keep inching forward. It's expensive, man. Jordan stuff's expensive. So baby steps is really what 2025 is going to be about, baby steps, man.
Right on. It really is. Jordan cards are certainly expensive. I got my eye on one in particular on this Sunday's Fanatics Collect Weekly. Joe's nodding because he was helping me decide if I was going to make a play on it last night, and I still don't know I'm going to for sure, but I do have my eye on it. I'm not going to say what it is, but beautiful card. But I hear you, man. They are expensive. So listen, I asked you to come. I said, Cajun, not Brian, but Cajun, what's a topic that you're kind of passionate about, maybe worked up even a little bit about right now? So why don't you introduce the topic and we're going to talk about it, and just tell us what you're thinking about.
Well, I just wanted to throw it out there because as a content creator, you do auction reviews, you do auction previews, you do all sorts of auction shows. I do auction shows. When I see cards sell for more than they sold the last time, I get excited. And it never fails. Every recap video I do, which is 2 a week, somebody will come in and say, Shill, with no, again, I don't know if they were shilled or not, but without any evidence, if a card goes up 15% from the last sale 9 months ago, it doesn't mean it was shilled. It just means it sold for more, man. And so I just kind of wanted to throw that topic out there as a little educational piece. It's going to be entertaining too, because I got some hypotheticals for you, right? Where we're going to ask the question, is this shilling? Is that shilling? Is this what a lot of people are calling defensive bidding? What are the prerequisites for something to fall under the definition of shilling? So I just thought it would be an interesting topic for us to talk about, because I am seeing the types of cards that I care about, which is basketball cards, predominantly in the 90s, but even more, I'm kind of moving into the 2000 to the 2012 range. I'm seeing them sell for more money, Jeremy. And a lot of people are on board and they're excited and there's momentum. And then a lot of people are being like, that's all shilled. It's all shilled. And I'm like, well, why is it shilled? Is it shilled? Yeah. Maybe it is. I don't know. Let's figure it out. How do we define it?
Well, I think, Linda's first son, Michael, here says Shilling is bidding with no intention of buying, in my opinion. Bidding with no intention of paying if you win. To me, that is a good definition, just to put up there again. To me, that makes sense. I consider that to be Shilling too. Now, I'm going to tell you a quick. Go.
Hold on.
Yeah. Go ahead.
What if the card gets paid for? Can a card be shilled if it gets paid for? The answer is definitely yes. So it's not that simple.
Sorry. Yeah. Shilling
Obviously,
is
yes.
So what this comment refers to is if you are not the seller of the card, if you are not the owner of the card. If you are the owner of the card and you bid on your own card, that is Shilling. If you're the owner of the card, you bid on your card and you pay for it, that is Shilling. If you are not the owner of the card and you bid on a card with no intention of buying it, I think that's Shilling.
Agreed.
What
about this?
Yeah.
I got my little cousin. People are like, my 9-year-old nephew hit the bid button on eBay. Oops, it was an accident. What if you have your not 9-year-old but 29-year-old cousin win your card for, let's say, 3x what it sold for last and pay for it? Is that Shilling?
Yeah, because you had them do it. So they're just your agent.
So you can have Shilling when the card gets paid for. So that's kind of one of the things we probably need to talk about. The definition and how to narrow it down.
That is, there is Shilling by people who are not very smart that just shill with their own accounts or under their own names. And then there are people who will shill by calling their cousin across the country and saying, hey, put in this bid for me on my listing because you're over there. Maybe we have different last names. And so it's harder to detect, if not impossible. Still Shilling against hobby ethics, completely 100% against hobby ethics. So that is still Shilling for sure. Now, let me tell you a quick story about a false accusation. So, and this is another one where I have inside information on who the players are. So I went onto Hobby Insider, a message board community on the internet that I actually was the owner of for 13 years. I just sold it earlier this month. That's another story. But a guy makes a post. He says, I just want a card that was beyond obvious a shill bid. Even the communication with the seller dictates as such. This one more than ever really struck a nerve with me as the communication was tough. I went to report on eBay and it seems they have measures in place to detect and no need to report it. He says, I bid up to my max, the last minute to the dollar by an account with zero feedback and 70% bidding activity with this seller. Thoughts? And one guy responds and says, eat an NPB. Like, don't pay for it. Just eat the non-paying bidder thing. He goes on to, eBay has been a joke for a bit of a time. He says, I'm at the point where I mostly deal with bin or buy it now best offers and steer clear of high-end auctions because of the shill bidding involved. Anyway, here's the thing. The guy then reached out to me personally, and this was an auction this was a Slab Sharks auction. So, Slab Sharks is a consignment company. So yeah, people who consign to Slab Sharks can potentially shill bid. And obviously you're not allowed to, it's against terms and conditions, and they will look for it. Anyway, this guy, the seller of the card, is also one of my clients, one of the most nicest, trusted guys in the Hobby Insider community. And if you met him, you would just think he's just a lovely guy. There's no way he's shilling his auctions. It's just like absolutely not. And so I reached out to the head of Slab Sharks. I said, hey, look at this. What do you make of this? And he goes, yeah, I talked to this guy. He goes, it's not a shill. I said, okay, like, how do you know? Why isn't it? He goes, well, because this buyer has paid for auctions before and they're new to eBay apparently. And since that post was made, now they have some feedbacks as well. And the cards have been shipped and that card got paid for and shipped. Yeah. So it's so people almost automatically assume that if you have zero feedback, that you're a shill bidder. Yeah. Now that is often the case, but it is not a bulletproof argument for a shill bidder.
Yeah, it's not dispositive. It's the easy. And here, where do you think that stems from? I think it stems from jealousy because either they didn't win the card, like assuming that a card that sold for more than the last comp was shill bid. That's either A, jealousy because they didn't win, they got outbid, or B, they don't own the card and they don't like to see cards that they don't own or care about sell for crazy numbers. But I hate that the people kind of jump to conclusions. Is shill bidding happening? 1,000,000%, man, 100%. Yes, it is happening out there. But I just thought it was important for us to throw it out there and sort of throw out some questions. How about this? Let me just throw this question out. You guys answer this, Joe. Answer this yes or no, right? This is a yes or no question. Is it ever okay to bid on your own card? Is there any scenario ever where it's okay to bid on your own card?
No, not for me, but there may be, but not. I haven't ever done it. And I don't see a circumstance that I would.
I mean, like it's a hard no. It's a hard
question. Yeah,
it's a hard no.
Okay. The answer is no. Is it ever okay to reach out to somebody else in the hobby that you're familiar with, that trusts you, that you know will keep things under the vest and say, hey, do me a favor. I don't want to get murdered on this card. I just listed it with fill in the blank auction house. Do me a favor. Can you just put in a low minimum bid to make sure I don't get killed? Is that ever okay? Yes or no?
No.
I say no. I say that's not okay either, right? No. Is it ever okay? Is there any situation where it's okay to bid on a card with no intention of paying for it?
No.
Of course not. Okay, so we're laying the foundation of what is definitely not okay, because this is we think it's black and white, but it's not black and white. As we'll see in a second, we're going to see some different scenarios in here. Is there any situation where it's okay to not pay for a card? Whether it's through mistake, misunderstanding, I mean, I can think of a situation where maybe the title said one thing, but the card said another, and you bid on it, and again, this still does fall onto the buyer. And I've got a hypothetical, or not a hypothetical, but an example where I screwed up. Maybe you looked at the title, but you didn't look closely at the card. You thought it was an atomic, but it was actually just a refractor. The title said atomic, but the PSA slab or the BGS slab did not say atomic, so it clearly wasn't an atomic. Oh my God, I just realized this. I just paid 3x what a refractor's worth because I thought it was an atomic. I'm not going to pay for this. Is that okay?
I backed out of an eBay deal before that had a title that misrepresented the pop count, and I didn't feel great about it because that should still be on me.
Yeah.
It said pop 1, and then I come to find that it's pop 8, and I reached out to the seller. I said, hey, what? He's it had been a while since I updated that listing, and I said, well, I'm not feeling great about it. I mean, probably on me, and he let me back out. We didn't go to the mat on it, but yeah, that's the time I backed out of a deal.
So see what I mean? So like there's some gray. There is some gray. Like the example I just gave, I just did it. I was going so fast, Jeremy, and I looked at a refractor. It didn't even say atomic. The slab didn't say it. The title didn't say it. I saw it, and I was like, you know what? I wouldn't mind picking up a copy of this atomic refractor. And I bid on it. I went on Card Ladder. I looked it up. I was like, this is what the atomic refractor PSA 10s were. And I put a bid in, and I won it. And I paid it. I paid the hell out of a refractor, way too much for a refractor. It was a very aggressive winning bid, but I ate it.
But so the seller called it an X-fractor, and you thought it was a refractor, and you.
Nobody called it anything. I'm just old and dumb.
You just misread it. Okay.
Yes.
I mean, listen. In that situation, I think your course of action is to contact the seller as you did and say to them, hey, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. Are you willing to let me out of it? If they say no, you pay for it and you move on. You take.
I didn't even call them. I just paid for it, and I'm like, chalk it up to.
But I think in that case, you could reach out. You can always talk to the seller to get out of buying something that you bought by mistake. If the item is mistitled or misrepresented, then I think you have some recourse there, and you can get out of paying for it. But if the listing is right and you didn't make a mistake and you don't feel like an idiot, you don't need to call the seller or reach out and say, hey, I screwed up here, legit. Do you mind selling it to the next offer, giving a second chance offer, or relisting it? If you do, fine, I'll eat it. But if not, I'd be grateful. Then it's up to them. But yeah, no, if you win an item, you pay for it. I mean, even if you mega bid and you win, too bad. You bid what you are willing to pay.
Yeah. It was the worst feeling, Jeremy, because I got the emails like you won. and I got it the next morning, right? I just went to sleep. I was like, damn, I stole this atomic refractor. And then I got to work and I was, making my PayPal payment and I was plugging it into my spreadsheet for my taxes, the cards that I won. And I was like, damn, I just realized that's not atomic. I was like, I overpaid like hell for this refractor.
Right.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
All
right. So listen, Leighton Sheldon's going to be joining us in a couple minutes. We're going to bring him on, but he's going to come on. He's only coming on for a little bit, so you'll be on before and after him, Brian. But before we bring him on, I want to go through. We got some comments here on Shill bidding. Let's see what the chat is saying. Stale Prod says Shilling is propping for intent of that. Shilling is propping for intent of that. I think I get it. Skeppy says old school Shilling is the thing of the past. The manipulation of prices is ridiculously out of hand. Well, but Shill bidding is still going on. I don't know what he means by old school, but it's still going on. Hobby Champ says anytime you're artificially inflating the price of a card purposely without the intent to purchase is Shilling, in my opinion. That makes sense to me. 100%. Ben Diamond says people also make fake comps. End of the day, only pay what you are comfortable paying for a card. That goes without saying. Only bid what you are comfortable paying, because there are fake comps out there too. Good evening, C. Eddie B. Todd McDonald, welcome to the show. Jeff McMahon. Professor says, when you speak Jeremy of hobby ethics, is there really a document or is there a really document, or is more of a consensus opinion? This is based on my decades of being in this hobby and talking to people. That's all it is, Professor. Good evening, the smarter collector, Chris, who was on with us recently. Professor says, I have a situation where I put in a bid, it is a low bid, and the seller takes the card off eBay just before auction ending. Is this a pseudo shill bidding? They take the card off before the auction ends. I mean, there's various reasons why that can happen. I don't think that's shill bidding. I think that's a seller issue, so it's completely different. Mookie Chilson says, definition of shill bidding from eBay website, when someone bids on an item to artificially increase its price, desirability, or search standing. Okay, but what if you pay for it then? I don't know. That it seems to be incomplete there a little bit to me, that definition. Mookie says that someone in the definition should definitely include the seller themselves. Of course. Use a reserve if you don't want to get beat. If you can't, don't auction it. So yeah, I mean, reserves are just tough. I tell people, reserves just deter bidding. People don't want to bid on a card. They don't know if it's going to sell. I've never had success with it. Let's bring on Leighton right now. He's in the back room. Leighton, you ready to go? All right. I don't know, Leighton. First of all, say hello to the fellas in the chat.
Hey guys, how are you?
Doing well, thanks. Good to see you.
Nice to connect with you, Brian.
Leighton, so we're talking about Shilling. Have you been watching a little bit leading up to right now?
Just about the last 2 or 3 minutes.
So what do you think of, because listen, you are always bidding on all the auction houses looking for cards. I want to get your thoughts on a reserve for a moment. This is a little bit off topic of Shilling, but I want to get your thoughts on reserves, because my outlook is, especially on the eBay platform, is that if I see a reserve, I kind of just don't bother bidding, because I feel like just don't, it deters bidding for me. I'm certain it deters other people. And to me, it's because, is this thing even going to sell? Like, if you just put it on as a buy it now or best offer instead of a reserve, I think reserves hurt the sellers and then could hurt the card when it eventually maybe does go to auction later. Some people might just be fed up with it. That might be a bit of a stretch, but what are your thoughts, Leighton, on reserves? Good, bad, or indifferent for the item and the price it realizes?
Sure. So I think it really depends on the item you're talking about. So in other words, the more liquid an item is, a reserve is not necessary. And if you have a reserve on a liquid item, it's not good. It doesn't encourage bidding. However, about 20 years ago, I used to work at Leland's. And of course, I've been bidding in auctions ever since. So one of the few times I do see a reserve work very well is not really on eBay, but is in a major auction house where there might actually only be one buyer at a certain price. So I feel like the more illiquid an item is, a reserve actually is okay, because you take the auction house's mailing list, which theoretically might be higher end clientele than the eBay auction house or the eBay clientele. And then in terms of the reserve, I agree. I'm not suggesting it encourages bidding, However, if someone on an auction house mailing list really wants something, you no longer need two people to really want it. You only need one person to want it. And so I've seen that work successfully, over the last 20 years, but it's a very small, specific number of cases.
Can the bidder, if there's only one person bidding on an item on an auction house that offers reserves, non-eBay, don't you need someone else to bid you up, like to get to
It's a great question, Jeremy. I would say it depends on the auction house. I'm not familiar with all of them and their rules, but I do know for a fact, for example, just use some round numbers, that normally, you're right, Jeremy, it takes two people to bid it up. However, if you are bidding in an auction and the reserve is 20,000 and you've bid 10,000, don't quote me because I don't run an auction house, but I'm fairly certain that it's not necessary to get anyone else to bid from 11 to 20,000. Meaning, if that bidder alone wants to take his bid from the 10,000 where the reserve is not met all the way to 20, and then the reserve is met. Remember, the auction house is in the business of not only selling the items but collecting their commission. So I don't want to be wrong about this, but I'm fairly certain that if there's one bidder that wants to take that item from 10,000 to 20,000, they can do that in the case of where there's a reserve, because then the reserve would be met, and then all of a sudden the bidding could then progress from there. Yeah,
fair. And this just comes out again because some sellers might not want to let a card go for a certain price. So they have some options. One is, set a reserve on eBay. Number two is don't auction on eBay. And number three, the one that we're talking about, which is the one that none of us condone, obviously, but we know people do it, is she'll bid your auction or get someone to do it for you, which is, again, completely against the ethics of this hobby. So I just want to make it clear, we are talking about it, but we are not saying we're okay with it or for sure not encouraging it at all. Brian, your thoughts on this reserve talk and how it comes into play with what's on your mind?
I'm with Leighton. I don't run an auction house. I think you got a special guest coming on that's going to know the answer to this because he does possibly run an auction house. But, this goes along the lines of the other term that I used earlier, which is defensive bidding. Defensive bidding is almost like third-party reserve, right? And so you've got members of the hobby that don't want to see a card sell below a certain price. So they go ahead and say, anytime I see a Joe Sakic PSA 9 rookie card, I'm going to bid X number of dollars to make sure it never goes below that. If I win, I pay. I don't mind picking up duplicates ad infinitum, and I'll collect as many as I need. But I'm going to put my own reserve on this card as a legitimate, honest bidder with every intention of paying. It's almost like a third-party reserve that's been artificially placed on a card that nobody else knows about except that bidder.
Yeah,
I see a lot in the Jordan world. Let's put it that way.
I'm sure it does.
Yeah,
price, defensive bidding, price protection. I mean, it's gone through my mind before. It's like, listen, there's a Gretzky rookie for just a nice, totally liquid card. And if I think it's underpriced, I might bid on it because I see value there. I don't need it for my collection. Maybe I'm going to buy it just to put it in my showcase at the next card show.
Sure.
But it's like, to me, that exact what I said, that's not defensive bidding. That's like value buying. I'm just buying something at value because I think it's too low. So now consider a different situation. I own a card, maybe it's a Rubies from 1997. It's out of 50. And, I paid $15,000 for mine, whoever, Ken Griffey Jr., let's say, and there's one up for auction, same or very similar grade. And it's sitting at $7,000 with, maybe a few hours left. I'm like, damn, what do I do here? Do I bid on that to get the bid up and hope someone else wins? Because I don't really want another copy. I just don't want to see the value of mine come down. And I mean, listen, this goes through many people's heads. I'm sure of that. We know that. But it's still not the right thing to do if you're just bidding on it, hoping someone else wins it. Now you're just pushing the price up because you don't want to get hurt yourself because you own that same card. So that to me is, not unethical. That to me is unethical defensive bidding. Yeah.
I think it comes down to whether you have the intent to pay. You could still want someone to buy it for much more than what you're willing to defensively bid. That could be your priority. But if it goes for your number and you're ready to stroke that check and run that PayPal through, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Well, I don't either. I don't either.
It
Now
comes down to
here's
the
the
intent to pay or not.
here's the problem with that though, Brian. And I know you'll agree. We talked about it, but if you are like, if I would ever do that, I would pay for that item. Of course I would.
Yes.
I've never not done that. I've never not paid for an item. Well, I shouldn't say never. I mean, I've been on eBay since 1999, so I don't remember everything, but I'm certain I've never, in the last, anyway. If I'm bidding, I'm paying, first of all. Now, here's the problem with it is that if I didn't do that, because I really don't want another card, I just don't want to see one sell for half of what I paid for mine whenever I bought mine. So in that case, the comp that is now set and is going to be documented on Card Ladder, among others, is now out there. And is that still a good comp? Is it like a high quality comp? Because I only bid on it because other people weren't bidding on it, let's say, or whoever. I'm using myself just for the example, of course. Now, to that, I say that's still a comp. I mean, it got paid for, it was bid by. And the other thing is that not all comps are equal. And so people who are relying on comps need to understand that and maybe put a little bit less credence into all the comps that people seem to take as the Bible, and they just are not. Not all comps are created equal. So with that said, I want to get all your thoughts here. Let's start with Leighton. Your thoughts on that line of thinking.
I mean, a lot of different things are wrapped up in there, but I'm going to keep it simple. Number one, if you're willing to write the check, to me, I'm much less concerned with anything else as long as you're legitimately paying for it. Number two, because I've been in a lot of auctions, I have people ask me this. How do you know one auction house versus another is going to be kosher and is going to be okay to bid? And what I would just say is proceed with caution. I generally don't leave ceiling bids. I have on occasion. I tend to do that more for my PC than something for, just collect. However, in general, I don't. But if I bid in an auction and I end up winning something, I would say this: I sleep very well at night because I just know I'm comfortable bidding at that price. And honestly, I don't care about all the noise. I don't care if someone got their grandmother to bid or if someone's 14-year-old kid bid by accident, because at the end of the day, I just know I'll be prepared to bid whatever number I've decided to bid. I prefer the 14-year-old kid doesn't bid against me, or your Aunt Sally doesn't bid against me, so I can pay less. But what I'm saying is, if you spend your entire life like worried about the noise, and let's just not think about the hobby in this case, but like zoom out, right? If you worry about every wrong that's done at the bagel shop in your town, or like every time someone cuts someone off, if you're always worried about that, you're going to live a much shorter life. So I just think keep it easy and worry about your own lane. And if you hear some things about an auction house that you don't like, maybe stay away from that one in particular. But that's kind of how I handle bidding, and not worrying about if someone's bidding up an item against me in an inappropriate way.
Yeah, no, fair comments for sure. Joe, your thoughts on defensive bidding and what we're talking about right now, please, if you don't mind. And by the way, I want to say, call it the chat. Really great comments. We're going to try and get to them, but let's go to Joe first.
Yeah, I don't run in the deep waters, perhaps as much as some. So, my experience will usually amount to doubling down on an Andrew Wiggins Crown Royale numbered to 10 card where, I paid 40 in a buy it now, and then I see it. Of course, it always comes up for auction, right? Immediately after you hit the bin, you see one, and it's like, oh, nobody seems to like this card as much as I do. And so I do have a lot of doubles, occasionally even triples, just because of that serendipitous situation where something emerges quickly after, and it's still so much in my mind. I've already run the value in my mind, and so I'm quite, I'm bidding for that second card with the intent of winning. But if I don't win, I'm like, okay, well, I already got one. So that's kind of my only. I don't think that's really defensive bidding. I think that's kind of already running the numbers in yourself, the valuation in your own kind of collector sensibility, and saying, yes, this card is this valuable to me, and I'll go for a double scoop.
Brian, what do you think?
Yeah, every single thing Joe and Leighton just said, I agree with all of it. Yep. Especially Leighton's deal, where it's like you're not going to get run up to an exorbitant number way over comps if you do your own research and stay in your own lane. Don't worry about the next guy. Like if that card goes to some exorbitant number that defies all logic, you're probably at fault for chasing it there. Like know what you're comfortable paying for a card, and at the end of the day, if you win the card, then you won it for the number that you thought was an appropriate number and no more.
Yeah, no, well said by all of you guys for sure. Okay, let's go to some comments now, and we'll get our thoughts on some of these as well. Dan here says, read the fine print of Golden's user agreement. The Golden House account can bid on a card to have it reach the minimum. To which Dan also says, Golden employees are permitted to bid on cards. Golden employees are permitted to auction cards on the site. Now, I don't really have a problem with them auctioning cards on the site if they are not allowed to bid on them. I don't think I do, but maybe I need to think about that further. And then the comment about placing bids on items, that comes up. We had a comment down over here. Someone mentioned house bids. And I don't have the comment ready to go right now, but someone mentioned a house bid, which is basically when the auction house can bid up to the reserve of the consigner, and whether or not that is now, it's in the terms and conditions of auction houses that do this, and I don't think it's allowed in all states, but it is allowed in some states. So we'll do more of that. Raider Rabbi says, I don't see much gray area in any of this. Yeah, I mean, I hear that. Ben Diamond says Heritage does the same. Seems bad to me. He's talking about the house bids. Smarter Collector says there needs to be some way to report non-payments from eBay and the auction house's bad comp data is a plague. Hello to Colin Murray. Tip of the mitt. Now this one I have to think about. Shilling is only present because we, the hobby, get caught up and pay more than we are comfortable with. That's an interesting comment. I'm going to take it off the screen so we're not blocking Leighton and Cajun anymore. But I don't know. What do you guys, Brian, what do you think about that comment? Shilling is only present because we get caught up and pay more than we're comfortable with.
No, I don't think that's true. I mean, I could win a card for less than comps that was shilled by the seller when I could have won it for half of comps. I might win it for 10% less than the last comp, which is great from my perspective, but I might have won it for half of the last comp if it not been for the seller shilling his own card. So I just don't know if we know enough of what's going on behind the scenes. I don't think every card that gets shilled sells for significantly more than comps.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, that comment again, put it back on the screen, doesn't completely resonate with me unless I'm just not understanding the intention by tip of the mitt. But Leighton, what about your thoughts on this comment?
I don't necessarily agree with it. I think that people generally shill because they're greedy. Right? Like they want more than something is supposed to sell for. So I define that as, inappropriate behavior if it's not allowed by the particular platform that you're bidding on. And just to touch upon, because, I have friends at some of the auction houses you guys are talking about. I know Heritage, has some maybe the ability to, because they're in Texas or they're based in Texas, to bid on behalf of the house. I'm not suggesting that these things are right or I like them, because I honestly don't know. But kind of like what Brian was saying before, I just don't worry about it in the sense of, not because I have so much money, believe me, I'll take donations if you have. But the joking aside, that's kind of what we're talking about. In other words, Brian, if you're going after a Michael Jordan item, maybe 1,000 is your limit. Maybe on auction night, you get a little crazy. You're going to go one extra bid. You say, you know what? I'm going to be at 1,100 or 1,200. If you go to 5,000, I'm not saying you deserve what you have coming to you, but understand that, that's not really acting in a responsible way if you want to have staying power in this hobby, really, as a collector, as a dealer, as an investor, as a hybrid of any of these. So, I would just say that you're right. You should definitely check the rules of an auction to make sure you're familiar with that particular space, because they are all different. But in general, just make sure that you bid something you're comfortable with, and don't worry about all the different reasons why the price might go to a certain number. And if you have to worry about that, I would just say it might not be worth it for you to participate in auctions, and then actually just go like on eBay and look at buy now. REA is coming out with like a new marketplace, where you could buy things at a certain price. And then of course, I just came from the White Plains convention this weekend where there's a ton of vintage cards available all at a certain price. So like, you don't have to participate in auctions to be in this hobby. And if it's something that makes you nervous, I would just say maybe pass on it.
Yep.
Yeah, the reality of the situation, guys, is that shill bidding is a part of the hobby landscape, and unfortunately, I don't see it ever going away because people have friends two, 3 states over. Like, I just don't see it going away. So you have to proceed accordingly based on your own tolerances to what you're going to pay. And I just say, like you, Leighton, I've accepted it I don't like it, of course, but I've accepted that it's a part of this hobby landscape. So bid what you are willing to pay. And if you're worried, if being shilled is really going to, if you're going to be so offended by it, and you have the right to be, I'm not saying you don't participate on that auction platform. That's there are always more cards. There's always more cards to buy. So that's where I get to with that. I want to say hello to Matthew, 1956 Tops guy. He's been I'm doing this Name the Card game Monday to Friday on Instagram lately, guys. Check it out on my Instagram account. We're having fun with that. Matthew's been taking part. LGC says price protection is the same as price enhancement. In my opinion, there is a conflict involved, even though it may involve third parties. If you pay, you pay, though. I think we've gotten to that. Ben Burrow says, curious if Leighton Sheldon has insight into why a house would use a reserve instead of just setting the opening bid at the desired minimum. I mean, Leighton, I think it's to get the action going, to get the bids happening, to get people excited. But do you know of any other reasons why?
Oh, yeah. Generally, from what I can tell from where I sit, the reason why an auction house uses a reserve is because said consigner won't give it to them otherwise. Believe me, almost no auction house that I know of any of my friends at high levels out there, they're not like, late. I had a great convention here at the National. Almost all of my consignments have a reserve. No one talks like that. Right. So I think that generally, if you have a reserve on an item, it's because the auction house had one arm behind their back and they weren't going to get it otherwise.
Okay, let's go to the next comment from Phoenix Sports Fan. He says, have you discussed Sam Nubbs, who is known as a bit of a whale on Instagram anyway, in the modern, I believe, in the basketball world? Have you discussed Sam Nubbs accidentally outing his own shilling? No, we have not discussed that yet, Phoenix. And there's no love lost between me and this Sam Nubbs. I'm not a fan of this person. I'll just put that out there. This is one of the few people in the hobby that I don't like. That said, I'm not convinced that they were shilling their own card. I don't know that I haven't seen the evidence or I haven't interpreted the evidence properly. Someone sent me some things. I couldn't really make heads or tails of it. Brian, what about you? What do you know about this situation?
Let me tell you what I know. So the only thing I know is I just saw the post on Instagram and then it got shared a bazillion times. The only thing I know is you personally, from your account on Fanatics Collect, you cannot bid on your own cards. So that sometimes it's really funny because I'm sort of scatterbrained. So I'll be searching Michael Jordan and I'll pull up a card and I'll be like, oh, I wouldn't mind picking up another copy of this, whatever, Flair Anticipation PSA 9. And I'll go to bid and there's no window. I'm an idiot. It's my card. I'm selling it. So I'm trying to bid on a card that I'm also actively selling. I'm an idiot. There's no bid window. Like, you can't bid on your own cards. Like, it doesn't open. There's no bid window. So that's one way to tell that the card is yours and not just somebody else's. So if there was a picture of Sam's card and it said outbid on the screen, well, that can't be his screen because he can't place a bid in the first place. Now, is there other ways to shill? Sure. We just talked about it ad nauseum, right? His cousin or his uncle or his best friend or his wife can have their own account and they can go bid on one of his cards. And maybe that was a screenshot from their screen, but you can't take a screen. Like, I can't take a screenshot on my Fanatics Collect page of me bidding on my own card. It's not an option. It's not there. You can't do it. There's no drop-down menu.
No, that's
the only thing I know. I don't know if it was shilled or not. I don't know anything about the card either. So.
No, and I also as somebody who does shows for Fanatics Collect, and has sold on Fanatics Collect, when I have sold on Fanatics Collect and I am looking at the auctions in that auction, there's the ability to bid on everything except my items.
Right.
So you can't do that. So again, I don't know the ins and outs of that, but anyway, let's just move on from that for now. Mookie Chilson here says bid, win, pay. Simple as that. That's the magic formula. Your motive for the purchase doesn't matter as long as you bid, win, and then pay. I agree with that, and I'm okay with with comps not all being perfect. Now, LGC says defensive bidding / price protection still taints the market. If you're in the war room, you have to be a serious bidder because all bids taint the process. He goes on to say, if you are price protecting a card, your intention is to change the behavior of others, not to buy the card, in my opinion. Well, but that's projecting your opinion on how other people approach bids that are price protecting a card that they already own. So I don't know, LGC. I mean, I'm okay with bidding on a card because you think the price is too low, as long as you're going to pay for it. Now, I'm not saying that, again, not something I'm encouraging people go do. I generally need one copy of a card. So, if you ever see me post 2 copies of a card, I probably was price protecting in my own mind, and I ended up buying the card. And in that case, I was okay with it. Are you guys okay with it? That's going to be up to each of you, right? So we'll see. Now, Leighton, I wanted to just give you a kudos. First of all, I watched your interview with is it Derek Grady of Heritage?
Yeah.
Yeah. So guys, you got to check out Leighton's podcast, Trading Card Therapy. Great podcast. You've had some great interviews lately, by the way. And that was a very interesting interview with Derek, who's been at Heritage for quite some time. And do you just want to let people know and also, guys, check out episode 8 of the Vintage Spotlight podcast, which is a spin-off of Sports Cards Live. That just went live on Monday of this week that we just finished. So episode 8 is out on the Vintage Spotlight podcast. That is a podcast that Leighton and I host together. And we had Sammy Thunder on with us, another great YouTube channel to check out. But Leighton, really, really quick, just in terms of Trading Card Therapy, are you intending to continue doing interviews with such hobby luminaries?
So first of all, thank you for the kind words, Jeremy. I really appreciate it. Second of all, at episode number 75, I had made a conscious decision before, doing that episode that I wanted to challenge myself. I also wanted to have some fun, and I also wanted to provide value. So I thought about, you know what? I'm going to challenge myself to find 25 guests to take me from episode 76 to episode 100. And then after that, kind of reassess. Candidly, I could use a break after that, maybe going back to the regular format and not having hour-long shows. But who am I complaining to, Jeremy? You're going to have like a 4-hour show tonight. That being said, I'm really into, leaving, and my son's in the other room at the moment, but leaving a legacy. And I don't plan on going anywhere, but in the sense of in the hobby, I love the space, and I'd like to be able to look back in 1, 5, 10, maybe even more years than that and say, wow, like Sammy Thunder's interview of Pat Quinn. That was phenomenal. And that was the whole precipice and the reason why, or one of the main reasons why we brought him on the Vintage Spotlight. So I think in general, I love what Brian's doing with Michael Jordan stuff. I collect Jordan. I'm not as vocal about it as Brian is. But I've learned a lot about, Michael Jordan from his content. And so that's my point is if we all continue to try to better our game in terms of, the content we're putting out there, I just enjoy doing it. Derek's been a longtime friend of mine. And so a lot of the folks you see me bringing on, I've had a prior relationship in some way. So to see it come to fruition, on camera, it's just a lot of fun. And then, of course, the fact that it's evergreen content. Listen, I'll be candid. It's good for my business. I run a company called Just Collect, for those that don't know. We buy, sell, and appraise vintage cards. And I can now definitively say, after making YouTube videos for several years, I bought a fair share of collections over the last number of years, specifically from folks who've actually found me on my YouTube channel. So I encourage you, if you're someone who's out there as a collector, as a somewhat dealer, or anything in between, if you want to try to find more people, you don't always need to, buy Google AdWords or focus on SEO, because we're in a new era right now. So if you produce, some value for the hobby that you love, whether it be here or in TCG cards or in Barbies or in coins, you're going to attract, the right people to your community, and ultimately it's going to help your business.
Yeah, well said, and provide entertainment and education for people. It's all a great part of being a content creator. And if you have a business in the space too, it just work. It's very synergistic that way as well. No doubt about that. Okay, let's go to some more comments. Now we may have a surprise guest coming on. I was just saying we may have a surprise guest coming on, and he just popped into the chat. So this guy's not on the thumbnail, but he's gonna come on. So Leighton, by the way, great to see you as always. You are free to hang out if you want, but if you got to run and deal with your son Crosby, great little guy, go for it.
Yeah, I'm gonna take off, guys. I really appreciate you having me, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, Leighton.
Thanks, Leighton.
All right, guys. We are gonna bring on a surprise and special guest. Give me the thumbs up backstage there if you're ready. He's ready. All right, guys, say hello to Josh Adams. He is back. Midwest Vintage Cards on Instagram. He is a co-founder of 90s Auctions. Josh, what are you doing here, buddy? What's going on?
It's Saturday night in Chicago. I saw Brian was going to be on, and I can't miss an opportunity to see the Cajun Cardboard guy. Yeah. Joe, how's it going? Jeremy, always good. Hawks won tonight. That's good. Detroit lost. That's always good. So, it's a good day. Going through my 1930s bread truck driving cards. And I had a few for Brian, so I thought I'd show him. So
Jeremy, Josh coming on after Leighton is like remember when Jordan walked away and Pete Myers was supposed to be the guy to replace Jordan? Josh is the Pete Myers. Leighton
it was Jordan. Dickie Simpkins, but that's mean.
Well, I'm happy to see you, Josh. Always good to see you. Now, Josh, we've been talking a lot about shill bidding and price protection and house bids. You run an auction company. You run 90sauctions.com, specializing in 90s cards or cards of players who played in the 90s. Guys, check out the website, register to bid, all that. But Josh, what are your thoughts on, we were talking about reserve, like don't shill your auction, just place a reserve. But nobody likes bidding on auctions with reserves. Then we got into the talk about house bids and secret reserves. Where do you fall on all this? And you're a bidder. You're a buyer of cards constantly.
So I look like I have no neck with this sweatshirt on, but I do have a neck. So the whole idea of house bids and all that reserve is all bogus. It's all just the same thing for shill bidding, and I think it's totally inappropriate. We don't bid on our stuff. No one who works for the company can bid on our stuff. And the whole idea of I hate this whole shill bidding thing, the whole protective bidding thing. If everyone thinks the market should dictate prices, that's not the market dictating prices. That's you manipulating the market to, quote, protect your bid. Hey, sometimes people lose money. It's the way it goes. I know Cajun's a very savvy investor, and I know he's very smart, so that doesn't affect him. But for most of us, sometimes we buy too high. Brian knows what's up. Look, he's patting himself on the back. He's so proud.
I've broken records the bad way. Trust me. No doubt about that. I've broken records the wrong way.
Me too. Hey, money's for spending. It's okay.
Josh, what do you think about the situation where you are price protecting? So, the example I used earlier, I bought a card for $15,000, 2 months ago, a Ruby's out of 50. Another one comes up. It's sitting at $7,000 with 3 hours left to go. I'm like, damn it. I wish I would have waited for this one. Same grade. I wish I would have waited for this one. Maybe I could have got it for $8,000 instead of $15,000. So I'm now, instead of just watching it go and kicking myself for not saving $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, I'm going to bid on it because I'm willing to buy a second one for up to say $11,000 and also bring up the bid, the comp to $11,000. What do you think? He's shaking his head, guys. He doesn't like it. What do you think?
I have several problems with that. First of all,
hold on, Josh. And I'm going to pay for it no matter. I'm using myself as an example, but this person is going to pay for it no matter what happens if they win it.
You have a big problem with that because first of all, that's not the market dictating the price.
No.
The market dictating the price would be the next highest bidder besides you. The only reason you're buying it is because you want to somehow protect the card you bought before.
Don't like the price.
What if it's a great investment? What if you think it's just that card should be worth twice as much? I'm going to take another copy. According to your logic, no one could ever have two copies of the same card in the same grade.
Not at all. Not different. But we're injecting this whole idea of I have to protect the price. No, you don't. It's not. This is not the stock market. Like sometimes cards go for lower. Brian's got a good point. I didn't think of that. That maybe it is a good investment. People are missing it. That's a great point. I didn't think of that.
I mean, look, if any of us run across, let's say a Jordan Jambalaya that is at half of the last comp, it would be irresponsible not to go put in a freaking low bid to try to win the card and then go sell it on your own privately or something.
I agree with that. This is why Brian's more successful than me. I agree with that.
I think it's gray, man. It's just super gray. I do think no matter what, as Jeremy keeps saying, you have to have the intention of paying. Like at no point are any of us alleging that it's okay to place a bid without paying.
Right.
We're getting into the H word, hoarding, right? We're getting into that issue with hoarding, which, is
I think it was Mookie who in the chat said bid, win, pay. Now you can start judging people all you want and judge why they bid, but if they bid, win, pay, and there's no shilling going on, like I'm not gonna take as a hobbyist, I'm not gonna take offense to that. But that's just me. Like again, not all the market. This is not a perfect market as well. This is not the stock market. This is not a regulated market. There are no printed, documented rules that we all have to sign off on before we enter the hobby, agreeing to comply with those terms and conditions. None of that happens or exists in this hobby, except that you sign up for eBay or 90s auctions or Fanatics Collect. You do agree to comply with their terms and conditions, and some people don't, but you do agree with that. So as long as you are complying with what you are agreeing, signing your name to, I'm okay with it. Bid, win, pay. Bid, win, pay. That to me, judge me all you want. If I'm gonna buy a card because I think it's too cheap and I own a copy and I don't want to see a low comp on a card I have, but if I pay for it, I'm willing to pay for it. It got paid for.
That's a good point.
But it's not. It's a good point, Josh. But it's not perfect. It's not. I'm not saying that these are the actions of a completely like altruistic human being. No, I'm saying that like I don't. That person might not want that second card, but they're going to own it anyway, and then they get to decide what to do with it at that point. So, okay. Well, let's do Josh. Anything else you want to? You came on not because you want to hang out with me or Joe or the chat. You came on because Brian is here. So, do you have any other comments or anything you want to say to Mr. Cajun Cardboard?
I mean, I should have been watching before I came on tonight, but I wasn't. So I don't know. What did I miss? Fill me in. I do want to see Jeremy and Joe though. You're great guys.
One thing Josh could answer, remember what Leighton brought up about the reserve. Josh, if you've got a reserve on a card on 90s auction and let's say I want that card and I bid, it's below the reserve, it'll say reserve not met.
Right.
Can I bid again or do I need somebody else? I can bid up. I can bid 11, 12, 13, 14 until I hit the reserve, right? I don't need another bidder to come in to get it higher.
You can bid as much until, And in my experience, cars with reserves never sell because I hate them. I hate them too. I hate them too. We had one guy who demanded a reserve on a card. Luckily, he's gone. Get him out of here. So that's fine. I know he's not watching tonight, so it's fine. So, everything else, we had our best auction ever last 2 weeks ago. And no coincidence that one consigner is no longer sucking the life out of me. So it's a good time. Success everywhere. So it's great.
Okay, let me just make a mention here. We have Trike will be coming on the show here in about 7 minutes. He's scheduled to come on. At that point, Josh, you're going to dip out. Cajun, you're good to stay on. Okay, until he comes on, hang tight, Josh. We're going to go to some more comments because we got lots and the chat's on fire tonight. So I'm going to go. I got 15 to get through right now. We're going to go through a couple of them at least. Dan here says, Golden user agreement. 3C7 says Golden may place bids below the reserve on behalf of the seller, either consecutively or in response to other bids. It's right there on the site. Those are house bids. So it's right there. If you are bidding on Golden or another auction platform that allows that, just know that you are doing that and bid what you're willing to pay is my advice. JP says defensive bidding, as explained, must require resignation, unfortunately. If someone is willing to pay the determined reserve, would there be anything that could be done? I don't follow the comment. Does anybody follow this comment? Okay, we're going to move on. Sorry, JP. Ben Burrow says, also curious what the group thinks about house bids. Okay, I think we've talked about that, Ben, since you put it up. CRT says, thank you. Thank you, Chris. Jeremy said it perfectly. Of course I did. No, just kidding. Not all comps are created equally, even though every sales tracking site tries to make you think they are. That's
the point I was trying to say inartfully, but that's what I think.
Not. Oh yeah, I agree, and that's something you missed earlier, Josh. Is that I had said it a couple times. Not all comps are created equal, and if you are in this hobby, you are bidding on cards. You just need to understand that when you're looking up comps, they're not all created equally. Especially, graded cards aren't all the same. Look at the time the auction ended, how many feedback they have, that sort of thing all comes into play. Important to just be aware. Skeppy says, if people are paying for the card they never intended to take possession of, is that shilling? No, it's not. It's manipulation to change prices. It's not always to move the price up either. If people are paying for the card they never intended to take possession of. Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting comment. It comes back to this defensive bidding thing, but if you win, you never know if you're going to win when you place a bid. You might be the last bid, so you have to be willing to pay. As long as you're willing to pay, again, I'm okay. We talked about that enough. Hobby Champ says house bidding is like legal fraud. But fraud misrepresents.
Right. I think it's dirty.
Conditions.
They're saying it. I still think it's wrong, but I mean, then you do what you want. Then either you participate or don't participate. Heritage is the same thing. Heritage says that we can. Their employees can bid on items. So just know that going in and bid accordingly.
I think my biggest gripe with house bids is that so many people don't know that they are a thing and that they are happening. Right? You just don't know. It might say reserve not met, but all of a sudden, the reserve can be met through the consigner going in and bidding it up against a live bidder, like a fish. You got a fish on a hook there. So I don't see it, Hobby Champs, as legal fraud, because fraud's a very strong word, but it is what it is. Jamie Hauser says shilling exists because of the large exorbitant amounts of money in this hobby. I think it comes down to greed as well, like Leighton said. I think it was Leighton that said that. I think that it's more of a greed than simply all the money in the hobby. This would happen at any level, right? I mean, it's relative, I would say. Guys, just do that, or let me know if you want to jump in on any of this stuff. Brian, Josh, Joe. Ben Burrows says one area that's interesting is whether a house must disclose a reserve price. Should they all be required to do this? What do you think of that, Josh?
No, I think the reserve is if it was disclosed, that'd be the starting bid. I think some consigners don't want to disclose what the reserve is, and that's why I don't like doing it, because I hate having to answer that question when people call, "What's the reserve?" Like, they don't want me to tell you. So I'd rather not have a reserve, just let it go and bid it straight.
Brian?
They've got to disclose there is a reserve. They just don't have to identify what amount the reserve is what you're saying. Yeah. Agreed. I've never once in my entire, I've bought now tens of thousands of cards, maybe 100,000 cards. Hell, I don't know. I have never once bid on a card with a reserve. It drives me crazy. I don't know what it is.
Same.
I never do it. I just don't do it. I just move to the next one.
Yep.
Fair. Colin says house bidding by staff is sketchy if they can't afford to pay. If they can't afford to pay if they win. When the Jordan PSA 10 sold in Golden for 700, they sold 2 more that night. Well, the house bidding is different than staff bidding on a card in their auction house, Colin. That's 2 completely different things. A house bid is a bid on behalf of the consignor. The house isn't. No one in the house is buying the item. If it doesn't hit the reserve, even though the house has bid on it, it doesn't sell. The consignor still owns it and decides what to do from there, versus an employee of an auction house bidding on an item at auction. Now, that brings me to a really good comment from the professor here, a recent comment. He says, for me and Cajun, because we both do this, if you are emceeing an auction, should you be able to bid also on the cards you are discussing? Well, this is like what I do for a living. I work for auction houses and cover their auctions. And I'll tell you, I bid on those cards too, whether I'm talking about them or not. So I would say yes. It would really suck for me. I'm not an employee of an auction house, so I can bid on cards on any auction house, whether I'm covering the auction or not. And I bid on cards in front of my audience. Not all the time, but on a regular basis. What do you think, Brian?
It's funny because the last time you had me on my on your show, it was like I think it was a Fanatics Premier auction, and I told you guys at the end of the show, I was like, by the way, I didn't mention which card it was or say anything about the card, but I was like, while we were doing this, I bid on a card. I ended up not winning the card. I mean, I don't see why not. As long as, it'd be one thing if Jeremy was like, this card sucks. Don't bid on this card. This is definitely not a PSA 10. and then you find out Jeremy wins it, that's one thing. But I mean, Jeremy's doing his job. Hell, if he couldn't bid on cards on auction houses, he wouldn't be able to build a collection. He's doing a preview for damn near every auction house.
Right.
Yeah, and I guess the risk there is that I could trash talk a card because I don't want anyone to bid on it so that I can bid on it, right? But I don't do that. Like I bid right in front of you. So if you see me in the most, well, not always, but oftentimes I bid live, like so people can see. And if I'm bidding on a card, I probably like the card, but sometimes it's a card I really want because I need it for my collection. And I'll talk about it during the show, but I'm not going to tell anyone that I'm bidding on because I don't want to show my cards in that way. Okay,
no pun intended.
Run through some more comments, guys. Trike's in the back. Trike, we're going to bring you on. Give me about 4 minutes. Josh, what were you just going to say?
I just said you don't want to show your cards. I said no pun intended. I thought that was a pretty good joke.
Thank you.
It's not bad for you.
Yeah, no pun
Thank
intended.
you.
Exactly.
I'm good for a few.
Ben Diamond. Oh, hang on. Ben Diamond here says auction houses are complicit in shilling. None will disclose a username, not their actual name, just even a screen name. And so I hear that, and that's a complaint of mine too. But is that more of a legality thing, not disclosing your shill bidding client's name or username to the overall hobby? Because I would love to know who I'd love there to be a big shill bidder list, but I don't know that auction houses can do that because shill bidding, I don't think is it illegal? Like can you be charged, like arrested for shill bidding? I don't know that you can be. So I don't know that an auction house, it's just probably not worth it for them to dox their clients. It's what they can blacklist them for sure, but I don't know if they should really dox them that way. Any thoughts on that, guys? Brian?
The next topic we have to discuss is, can auction houses prevent shilling? There are measures they can take to prevent it, but going back to Ben's comment about disclosing the actual identity of people, I'll be honest with you, Jeremy, I don't want people knowing what moves, and I'm not shill bidding anything, but I don't want people knowing what necessarily what Michael Jordan cards I am super, super interested in, because I don't want to drive up the competition for the particular Michael Jordan cards that I'm going for. So if Fanatics or Golden or 90s Auction is out here telling people, hey, these are cards you need to look at. Cajun Cardboard's bid on these 3 Michael Jordan cards, 48 times over the last 2 years. I don't want people knowing that stuff. Not that I'm, this guy, but
Josh, what about you?
Yeah, I'm with Brian. I don't want to disclose that stuff. I think there's a privacy issue there that, consigners wouldn't be happy with, and neither would bidders. But also, there's another issue. Brian said, figuring out whether someone's shilling or not is hard, because you could have like a buddy, right? Like shill the card up for the consigner that you don't know that that's what's going on, and you don't really know it's being shilled because you don't know the connection between two people. Our software prohibits anyone from bidding on cards that they're obviously consigning. So, but doesn't stop me from, right? Like, I know a lot of criminals, and they think of a lot of ways to get around the law. And you can, I could have a buddy who isn't even involved in cards sign up for the auction house and bid on it, and I can pay him, and he'll buy the card, and no one would ever know. And you can never detect that shilling. I just gave a bunch of people a lot of ideas.
That's the hypothetical I want to bring you, Jeremy. This is the big hypothetical here, and this is what a lot of people are alleging is happening now. I've got 5 copies of a certain card. It's consistently a $3,000 card. I mean, it's sold 50 times from $3,000 to $3,500. My little cousin wins it for $7,000 and pays. So I've got to give the auction house their money, right? The auction house gets their money. My cousin just gives me the money back. So no harm done. We've just given the auction house their cut. Now, over the next 4 months, I go sell the other 4 copies and relist this one, and I make so much more money than I just gave to the auction house. It made sense. That's the type of I don't know if it's criminal activity, but that's the shilling activity that I don't think an auction house can preclude. I don't think
I said, no, Brian, we are there. Like, no, auction companies cannot stop shill bidding. It is it is not possible. It's just not possible.
Even having a credit card on file, that doesn't stop it.
There's other people who have credit cards.
Right.
No, your cousin has a credit. Okay, really quick, I want to say hello to Thorson Collectibles. What's going on, Kinger? Welcome to the show. Good to see you guys. Thank you for being here. Colin Murray says bid, win, pay is wrong if you own the card. Also, it's like, well, that's shill bidding, Colin. That goes without saying, but we did say it earlier. You just must have missed that or came in after. Mike Double V says it seems like house bidding replicates the effect of a reserve without telling bidders there is a reserve. yes, I think to some extent. Mike Nunya says, what? Defensive bidding to protect your investment? That's lame. Fake comps. Not illegal, but
Right.
if, again, bid, win, pay, we're allowed to have these different outlooks. LGC says, Jeremy, in a prior example, you said you will put, okay, first of all, LGC, I thought I made it clear that I'm talking hypothetical. I'm not saying I will. Now, maybe I've actually done, maybe in this case, maybe I've actually put in a bid before on a card, because no, I don't defensive bid. No, I mean, I don't think I've actually done that. So LGC, I just want to be clear. Maybe I shouldn't use myself in the hypothetical, Joe, because that could, right? Maybe that's just irresponsible of me as a content creator. But no, I'm not saying I will. I'm saying that I was using myself as the example, just maybe to protect everybody else, if nothing else. But he goes on to say, you wanted another person to own it. You're not motivated on the card. Yeah, in that case, that's 100% correct, LGC. I can't argue with that. But if again, I'll use myself because in the spirit of this comment, if I do that and I win the card, I'm going to pay for it. I mean,
Right.
I don't think, the hobby might not love the person who does that for it, but I don't think they broke any laws. Dan says, pretty sure Jeremy didn't bid on last week's Sackett card. No, I absolutely did not. At a vintage card, quote of the night. I know a lot of criminals. Josh, clarify quickly, and then you're gonna pop off. We're gonna bring on Trike.
All right. I'm a criminal defense attorney by day, so I know a lot of people who find ways around the law, but then get caught, and then they call me. So
He's there you go, guys. He's actually a criminal defense attorney. That's why he knows a lot of criminals. Josh, thanks for popping on, buddy.
I love you guys. Great to see you. I'm sure I'll talk to you all very soon.
Peace out.
All right.
Thank
See
you.
you.
Myers. Bye.
All right. Okay. We're going to totally change gears now, Cajun. We're going to bring on Troy Reich, everybody. Trike Sports Cards on YouTube. He's got he's a baller of a channel. He's got a great channel, great content, the content that people love. Let's bring on Troy Reich and let's see what he's got to say. Here he is. What's going on, buddy? Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great. Just got back from watching Lions Commanders. Great game. Very, very great NFL playoff game. But yeah, I'm really excited to be here with you guys, a little sports, and then now I get to sit and talk sports cards. So can't complain. It's a great night.
Well, you've been on a couple times, Troy. You came on with me to talk about the Van City Card Show, but we've actually, I don't know, people might not know this who are watching it in the audience and all that, or listening to this, but we have sat on panels together. It feels like, I don't know, at least twice, up to maybe how many, 4 or 5, 2, 3, 4 or 5 times. I mean, I've moderated so many, I lose track, but how many times have we sat on panels together at big card shows?
I think it's a solid 3. I think 3, maybe even 4. But yeah, it's been great. Every time I really enjoy it. So I'm sure there's going to be more in the future, 100%. So
Definitely. Well, listen, I wanted, first of all, thanks for coming on. It's great to have you. Please say hello to Joe and Brian. I don't know if you guys know each other, but just guys, give each other a quick little hello.
Joey, what's up?
Sorry.
Hey guys,
Joey, you gotta get that flawless Reich RPA graded. You can't just hang it up there raw.
You know what?
Get that thing graded, man.
Yeah.
I looked at it though. I'll be honest with you, the edges and just with a thicker card like that, it's probably gonna be tough. I might get it with BGS just to have it slabbed up, but it's not a jump candidate. I didn't handle it very well when I signed it, so
maybe auto only grade.
Well,
I'm thinking about it.
Troy, you're a professional basketball player. You played pro, I believe, or semi-pro or college.
Yeah.
What? Tell us about that quick.
Yeah, I played former. I retired 3 years now. I played in college at Wake Forest, where the little fake RPA comes from. But then I was lucky enough. I played in the Philippines for 4 years, and I played for national out there. So I was never the most prolific scorer. My Wake Forest, I think, a solid 1 point per game, but I had a chance to play in some really cool places on some really cool teams. So I'm really thankful for that experience.
Well, listen, what I wanted to talk about with you is really the result of watching your content and your recent videos where you basically show your P&L about how much money you make in the hobby and what your expenses are and your sources of revenue in the hobby. And then you did another video. I haven't watched this one yet, but you talked about how I run a six-figure card. I think how I run a six-figure card business from my house type of thing. So you're very transparent transparent. And I like the tie into this topic versus the last one where we were talking about like hidden reserves on auctions and shill bidding and protective bidding and all these things that really are somewhat controversial but make for good discussions and interesting perspectives. So I want to ask you, what motivates you? And guys, again, check your YouTube channel is Trike Sports Cards. Is that right?
Correct. Yep.
Check it out, guys. Check out Trike Sports Cards on YouTube if you haven't yet. But something makes me think most of you have. And we've already had some comments here. Very quickly, Hobby Champ says Troy is great because he's genuine, very authentic dude. Fun content. Dan says Troy, great video on your Nashville collection purchase, but I was cringing when you tossed the base. So people love your content. There's no doubt about that, Troy. What motivates you to share and be so transparent about your income and your revenue and your activity in the hobby?
Yeah, well, first I have to respond to the comment. I'm right there with you. Throwing out the base, I hate throwing out cards. And for the longest time, or rather leaving them behind, that was a tough thing. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but I flew to a collection and I'm from San Francisco. So I couldn't take everything home. So I had to leave some stuff behind. And I know that rubbed people the wrong way, but it hurts me too. I guess this isn't really a response, but like it was just the reality of the situation. But in terms of being transparent with numbers, everything, like I was thinking about it because we talked about it before. Me and you, Jeremy, were talking. I mean, I just kind of thought, like, why not? Like, I don't have anything tied, and I thought it would be, I think I'm the first person in the sports card world that I've seen like fully lay it out. But other people have done it on YouTube before in other areas. And when I saw it, I'm like, wow, this is really inspirational. This helps me a lot. And I was like, I would love to do that for other people. And yeah, I mean, I guess I don't really care, no matter what, whether it's a small number, because some people are like, oh my God, that's all you make. Some people were like, oh man, all you do is sell sports cards and you make this. Like, no matter what the number is, no matter what you do, people are always going to have an opinion. And that's one thing that's helped me a lot. If anyone makes YouTube content, people are always going to have an opinion. And it's funny because it's split almost 50-50. If I make a deal on camera, not even just me, anyone, half of the people, oh my God, you got worked. And then the other half, oh my God, you robbed him blind. Like, people are always going to have an opinion. So for me, I just don't really care what option is. And especially if it'll help people, I have no problem being transparent and just putting it all out there.
Right. I think that's fair. Joe, you watch Trey. When I told you he was coming on, you were very pleased. What do you enjoy about Troy Reich as a content creator? And have you met Troy in person, Joe?
No, never met him. I feel like I know him. Bay Area people kind of have that Yay area DNA. Steph rolled his ankle tonight. Sorry to hear that. But what I like about your content, Troy, is you're a really good storyteller, and that's the power of stories, is they draw us in. Your style of editing creates a lot of I'd say interest and kind of like sticking with the narrative. I really liked when you did that one on your former teammate Dinos, who plays on the Greek national team.
Thank you.
And you looked for the one of one with your partner, and then you tracked down the one of one, and just the way that you intersplice those little text messages and exchange all along the journey. You did a little forward and a little backward, and I just thought it was really, really wonderfully stylistically done. But before I move, I want to also say that I am also a huge Cajun fanboy too, and I probably watch more Cajun than any other content creator out there. I'm a devotee to all his auction recaps, and the great thing about Cajun, I mean, what I like about both these guys is they're hoopers, and they love the game of basketball. But
me especially.
When Cajun gets into the 70s vintage stuff, and he's talking about the hookah shells, or he's talking about what Maravich might have been doing, in the locker room. I mean, stuff like that. I eat that stuff up. So anyway, both of you guys do tremendous jobs and bring a lot of your own personality and also a graciousness. I would imagine that you both were very well parented because you have impeccable manners and humility, and that goes a long way.
I can't wait to meet that version of Cajun. That one that was well brought up and well parented. I can't wait to meet that guy.
After I drove this guy around in Cleveland, this is what I'm going to get right here. I drove him everywhere in Cleveland. I was his Uber, for God's sakes. For free, by the way.
You gave me some rides. You did give me some rides. But Chris Sewell, our good Chris Sewell, baseball card collector, he also drove me a few places, and he's certainly someone who was well brought up. Speaking of him, Dan's Vintage says Chris Sewell is very transparent about the numbers on his deals. And he is. I mean, Chris is kind of known for that. The only what Troy is doing, maybe Chris will one day, but Troy takes it to the next level. Dan, I don't know if you watch Troy. I think you do. Troy shows all of his revenue streams, not just a card deal. He shows card deals. He shows when he does whatnot. He shows YouTube sponsors, YouTube revenue. I mean, you talked about all of it, Troy, in that video, and I thought that was very. It's like Mookie here says, Troy's transparency breeds confidence and trust is the true point of the realm. Guys, look at that. Look at Mookie's comment right there. That comment is
it's too much, guys. It's too much kindness, too much kindness in the chat, but I appreciate it all. I feel like I just came on here and everyone's just talking so nice about me, but I appreciate it.
Well, Troy, embrace it, man, because Dan says I thought so, Dan. I thought I figured that out. I mean, you're just a good guy. Like I said, we've met in person several times. You're just a good dude. There's no doubt about that. Dan here says Troy definitely has a good guy vibe and he's authentic. It's refreshing in this hobby. What's up, Talon Sports Cards? Welcome to the show to Brian of Talon. I mean, listen, I like that content too. So I want to ask Cajun a question related to that, Cajun, because we're both in the content creation business. I mean, I do it for a living. This is what I do. And I'm not going to do what Troy did and go show my books to the whole hobby for whatever reason. And I'd have to think about why, but it's really just, it's like, I don't ask you what you make. Don't ask me what I make. Nothing against anyone who shares that information at all, but that's just where I'm at. Cajun, what about you? Have you ever done that? Would you ever turn the camera around onto your, let's face it, YouTube revenue itself? It's a drop in the bucket for the most part. But after watching what Troy does, I mean, you can make some okay money on your YouTube videos, but it's not a main source of a revenue stream, I don't think. But Brian, would you ever go as transparent and showing exactly what you've made as a content creator?
I will never go that far. It would be very involved. There's a bunch of different income streams, right? Through content creation from the various affiliate partners. As you know, if you got 3 times as many as I do, the YouTube money, buying and selling cards, there's a million ways to make money in the hobby. Selling hierarchy posters, MJ hierarchy posters, again, drop of water in the ocean money. But I have been ultra transparent on buying raw collections, grading those collections, and then showing sort of the fair market value of the cards from those collections. And Troy's right. People love it. People absolutely love those videos. I mean, I'll bring out a spreadsheet. Here is exactly what I paid for the cards. Here is exactly how much it costs to grade them with PSA. Here's when I shipped them. Here's when they came back. I'll do a grade reveal video, and then we'll flip through Card Ladder, one of my affiliate partners, and I'll show you what every single one of these cards is worth in this grade. And then we'll go to the bottom line, and we'll be like, Cajun's an idiot or Cajun's a genius. Either way, Cajun's something, and we'll just show the kind of the net profit. Now I just do it, on from deal to deal kind of stuff,
Yeah, no, that's pretty fair. So let's go back to Troy now. Troy, 2025 is upon us. You've had success in the hobby with your content, with buying and selling cards. What do you have planned for 2025? Would you have any goals? Do you as a business person, as a content creator, do you set goals? Are you just kind of going to run the status quo into 2025? How did you enter the year, mentally speaking?
Yeah. Well, it's actually to piggyback off that. Kind of, I have to shout two things out. One, I see B Pencil in the chat. I'm saying this wrong, but he shouted out one of my videos. That one right there. Yeah, that's, first of all, I have to say thank you, because that's kind of like, not that I'm anything like a band, but I'm sure we all have bands or artists we love. If you're like, oh, I like one of your, because that's like one of my lowest viewed videos actually in like the last 2 years, but it's one of my favorite videos I ever made. So that means a lot that you enjoyed that. So thank you. And going off this, and also what Joe was saying, which I really appreciate, I really, I want to make fun videos and tell stories, continue to tell the best stories, and do more videos like the Olympics video with Dinos, because it seems like that's what really resonates with people the most, and I get the most excited about. I'm kind of at a little bit of a crossroads actually as I go into 2025, because as I showed in that video, my hobby income, my content creation income was almost like 50-50 exactly. And I've had a lot of, I've been listening to like the whole live in a great way. And I heard, some people on here talking about buying collections and how when you make content, you get a lot of opportunities to do that. And a ton more opportunities come my way. But now I'm kind of maxed out on time. So it's kind of like, all right, do I fully lean into buying these collections, which I'm having a lot of financial success with, but I'm already starting to see it's going to come at the expense of the content a little bit. So for me, though, I'm going to keep doing it. But I think content is actually going to be my main focus in 2025. I say that I just well, a little sneak preview here, actually, if it's okay for me to drop this here, Jeremy. Yeah, but I just drove 13 hours back from Seattle. I bought a sports card collection for $30,000, my biggest ever. And I'm doing a video on that. But that was like a ton of work and everything. Yeah, the point is really I just want to make fun videos, and I really want to keep doing content that's a little bit different than what that's always been the biggest thing. I want to kind of do stuff that you don't necessarily see out there all the time. And I feel like I've kind of been on a good path and a good trajectory of doing that. And I want to do it even more next year and to a higher level.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I look forward to it. And it's just nice to have a bit of a direction as we do. I've recently, I don't know if you're aware, Troy, but the first 4.5 years of Sports Cards Live were one-on-one 2-hour interviews. And in November, shook things up, I'm calling it Sports Cards Live 2.0, because we're bringing on several guests. We're going longer. We're going almost 3 hours, sometimes even more, Joe. We've gone like 3. I think last week we went 3.5, if not more, because we bring on Chris McGill from Card Ladder. Chris HOJ, as he's known, to back cleanup at the end. He always brings such interesting topics to talk about. He's got something lined up for tonight, I know. So he'll be joining us, I believe, maybe in about 10 minutes or so, actually. And then we have Billy Celio from Upper Deck coming on at the very end. Usually Chris would come on last, but Billy tonight, guys, because he was doing something that what worked for his time. But yeah, it's important as content creators to always, I feel, innovate and shake things up a little bit. And for me, Troy and Brian and Joe, with this new Sports Cards Live format, I feel like I'm starting all over again. I'm not, but it's just such a fun thing for me. So Brian, I want to ask you, are you, and I didn't really intend for this to become about content creation, guys, but I'm interested. So I'm going to ask the question, Cajun. Are you constantly thinking about ways to innovate and how to continue to bring value to your audience?
Man, that was like you cut and pasted that off ChatGPT or something, man. Jeez, that was eloquent.
ChatGPT, right up here amazing. In the dome.
ChatGPT. I guess, man, I've kind of gotten into a groove. Now I'm probably in my 4th year doing this, and I'm almost 2,000 videos. So now I'm to the point where 2 days a week are booked, right? So I've got an auction recap on Monday. I've got an auction recap on Friday. Saturday is usually mail days or grade reveal videos. So really that only leaves me 3 days during the middle of the week to sort of do, inventive, unique, different stuff. So I've tried my best to remember that not everybody out there collects like me, right? That's really hard to do because we get this sort of hyper focus. And so I would love to talk about Jordan literally in every single video. but it never fails. I'll do a video about Kobe Bryant or about Allen Iverson and Tim Duncan, and people will eat it up and say, more, Cajun, more, give us more, give us Reggie Miller, give us all this. So I haven't gotten to hockey or baseball or football, but I got to get better, man. I got to get better at giving the people what they want, because it's educational for me too. I mean, every video I do, I learn something, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, you are giving people what they want. That's evident by just your growth on the platform. And I also think there's some validity to kind of staying in your lane. And I'm not telling you not to expand out, Brian, because you do it, you're going to do it right. You've proven that. So, but no, it's interesting, and I think it's important to I love just doing different sorts of things with whether it's YouTube, Instagram, wherever. Thorson here says, when are you going to stump me on guess the card? I'm waiting, because that's Name the Card, this game that I've started doing. It's 2 weeks in now on Instagram, and it's getting a lot of activity. I'm enjoying making these things to you guys. So if you're not on Instagram doing it, I'm posting them on Mantle a little bit as well. But if you're not following me on Instagram or playing the Name That Card, they're in the stories. They're not in the posts. They're in the stories on Instagram if you don't know where to see those. But it is fun doing these things and shaking things up a little bit. I want to congratulate Dan. Dan's Vintage Baseball PC just reached 1,000 subscribers. Dan, drinks are on Dan at the National, because he has earned $17.23, fully transparent. Dan, I don't know what size beers or whatever we're going to be drinking, but drinks on Dan at the National, everybody. Thank you for that, Dan. Hobby Champs just started a hobby TikTok account, planning on taking it to the moon. We do wish you luck, Hobby Champs. And then here's a question from the professor. The professor is not going to shy away, Cajun, from pitting us against each other. So sorry, Troy, as I cut off your face just while I read this comment. It says, Jeremy, you and Cajun compete with each other. Cajun on his channel asked us to use the Cajun promo code for Fanatics Collects, which means I would not use the SCL promo code. So both Brian and myself have affiliate deals with Fanatics Collect, where if you send them cards and you use the Cajun promo code or the SCL promo code, whoever you use, we are going to earn a small commission. Doesn't cost you anything extra, but we get that out of the Fanatics Collect commissions. And Troy, I mean, I'm wondering, do you have any deals, like any affiliate deals? Like both Cajun and I produce content for Fanatics Collect. We're paid to do that. Do you have any deals like that? And then we'll get back to competition between me and Cajun in a moment. But Troy, I'm curious if you have any of those affiliate deals with auction houses.
I was gonna say I do not have a Fanatics Collect link or any auction houses. Actually, I'm trying to get like you guys. Yeah, no, I think I don't. The only one, it's not really an auction. I have a PSA link, code Trike25. Anyone wants to use that helps me out. Gets you $25 off your first PSA order. But no, they're power. And I always, the one thing I like to do too, at least when I can. I'm sure it doesn't make a lot of companies, but I think it's really great when the affiliate link gets your viewers something. I'm always like, it'd be nice if they can get some sort of discount as well, and then help support us too. I love whenever it's that always, it helps the company and it helps us so much. That's always the best thing. So I like affiliate deals like that.
Before we move on, I just want to get out the Men in Black memory eraser stick and put it on Troy so he doesn't go and try and get Fanatics Collect affiliate codes to compete with me and you, Cajun.
Troy, don't do that. You do not want to do this, Troy.
No.
You guys got it. I can't. You already bad. I want no part of that battle. I'm tapping out.
You should get the promo code Cajun for your channel. That's the promo code you should use on your channel.
You know what? I'm in. Next.
Cajun had to go. Wow. You guys Cajun had to leave the show. I'm just kidding. There he is. Let's bring you back, Cajun. But sorry, Troy, finish what you were saying there.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, Brian, I'm in. Next video, I will have a nice 45-second ad of just all your promo codes. Just send me all your promo codes, and that'll be the next ad in my video. I got you.
Yeah, now Troy's got to leave the show.
Now Troy's gone. Yes.
But the fact of the matter is, we don't have the exact same audience. Cajun Cardboard and Sports Cards Live. We appeal to some different people. I know Cajun does a great job of promoting that. I mention it at the top of my episodes when I'm doing a Fanatics show, which I do about 4 a month, but I don't push it that hard. I'm grateful for people that have used it. The professor, really grateful for you using it, and anyone else that does. I'm sure Brian feels the same way. I don't look at it as competition though, Cajun. I look at it like if I whatever Fanatics collect affiliate revenue I earn through through the people in the chat who are using it, I'm just so grateful and thankful, and it supports the channel, supports what I'm doing. And Cajun says and feels the exact same way. Use SCL, use Cajun. It's not going to make or break, I don't think, either of us, but it is definitely much appreciated. There's no doubt about that. Hey, Cajun?
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, as far as I know, you don't have a subscription fee or anything, huh? Like a channel, or do you? I don't know. I don't have one of those. Yeah. I never wanted to. Everybody's like, you should do a Patreon. You should do a subscription model. And I'm like, no, I don't. It's not right. It's like the reserve on auctions. It's like, I don't like that. Yeah.
Well, you say it's not. Go ahead, Troy.
Oh, I was just going to butt in though. It is funny you mentioned that, because the one thing that's really interesting, and actually no one's really done it at least not recently, but all the rage and all the other, like YouTube is like everyone's starting courses now, paid courses. And it's not something I would ever do, but it's just kind of interesting. It's just like, because a lot of people comment, they're like, oh, you should make a course out. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. That's just not going to happen. Sorry, just a random thought.
No, it's okay. So you mentioned Patreon, and I've never had Patreon, but I got to tell you, one of my good fellow content creating groups in the hobby, the Hockey Cards Gong Show, they have a Patreon, and it's actually helped them build the community. And it's like they do it in a way that it's completely inoffensive. It is completely inoffensive, and I think that if anyone is out there that wants to do a Patreon, which I think just gets your loyal viewers, subscribers, listeners to pay a certain amount every month to support you, watch what they do and how Josh really talks about it, and the community that they've cultivated is it's like they've done it the right way, the best way, the way that just you don't, and it's not, these things aren't expensive, like $5 a month, like it's probably less than your macchiato that you might drink 20 times a month. Like, it's no big deal, and it does help content creators that do it. So I don't have an issue with it at all. I've never done it, Cajun, and the reason why I've never done it is because I monitor, and just for everybody, my content has been monetized for almost 4.5 years, not because of YouTube, but because of sponsors and people, affiliations. And so I never felt the need or desire to do it, but it does work well for some people if they do, and then I think it works well for the people who are Patreon supporters, if you also provide them with really good value, which the Gong Show does, and a community, which the Gong Show, no one's done it like they have. So anyway, I just want to point that out, that not all Patreons, Cajun, and I'm sure you're open to all this talk, are offensive, I guess. Does that make sense?
It's just not me. This is not how I do it. I took your route. I mean, I called you on the phone before I monetized the first penny, and I said, Jeremy, I don't know what I'm doing. Tell me what to do. And if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be a guest on the show today, probably. So yeah, I followed in your footsteps, and you went the affiliate partner route, so I followed in your footsteps.
Well, and you know what? I did go that route, and but it's not. I didn't seek it out. It actually came to me. Like everything up there, for the all those things up there, pretty much kind of came to me versus the other way around. So it's very flattering. And but anyway, okay. So Chris HOJ has entered the studio. Everybody, Chris HOJ, Card Ladder, House of Jordans, has entered the studio. So I don't want to, Troy, you're still going to stick around. Cajun, you're going to leave, but I want you to at least say hi to Chris before you go. So Chris, you good to go? You're good to go.
I got one question for him before I go.
Okay, you can ask one question. Troy, you stick around. Before we bring Chris on though, Joe, I want to give you a chance because you're, hanging out with me like you do, like I force you to do every Saturday night. And I don't force him, of course. Joe, any thoughts on any of this discussion before we bring Chris on and change the subject? I want you to put guys, in the email I sent out to all the guests tonight, I forget how I put it exactly, but basically I'm going to read you guys what I said. Joe, are you okay if I read what I said out here? I said, Joe Grow is my right-hand man during the live stream, providing his views and asking thoughtful questions that always elevate the discussion. And I mean it when I say that. It's just the fact. You guys know that. So Joe, I want to give you an opportunity to provide a comment, a thoughtful comment, and elevate this discussion as you always do. And you just make me and this content better.
That's a lot of pressure, Jay Lee. No, I mean, just apropos to what you all were saying, I mean, because I consume all three of your content and greatly appreciate it. And I think, that people get used to something being free, and then there's always going to be a little strangeness, like what pay. But I come from the world of education where, teachers are underpaid. And I believe people should be remunerated for their work and their effort. And I know all three of you work damn hard and put your lifeblood and sweat into these into what you do. So I think there should be nobody giving you any guff whatsoever about asking for some compensation that helps fuel both your life journey as well as your professional journey in this space. So I'm all for, not just doing it in a sort of bashful way, but doing it, in a very real, authentic way to sustain your place, your voice in this milieu.
Yeah. Thank you, Joe.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe. Let's go. Jordan here says, Brian, we all collect like you because of you, as I'm looking at my Cajun Cardboard Jordan hierarchy poster. Hobby Champs just bought his first HOJ coin. Got to get me some HOJ coin. You HOJ is laughing at that. And Vintage says, Joe looks as calm and cool as Jaden Daniels did tonight. He always does, no doubt about it. Okay. All right. Okay, we're going to bring you on, Chris. You good? He's good? He's good. All right, guys. Welcome, Chris HOJ, to the show, to the panel. How are you doing tonight, buddy?
Doing well. Hello, Jeremy, Joe, Brian, and Troy. Great to be here.
Good to have you. Good to have you. Cajun, was it you? You said you had a question for Chris before you hop off?
I do. Chris, some people were asking, and I looked like an idiot on the last auction recap, the card ladder estimated value, the card ladder value on y'all's website. And I don't know if Jeremy can share it, but there's a little eyeball now. So you got to click it to actually see it. Talk to us about that new change, that new feature, and why it came about.
Good. This is a great question. Great opportunity for me to share a little something about the product. And if anybody doesn't like this, blame it all on me because it was solely my idea. Do not blame Christina or Josh or Nick. Okay, so the idea behind it is this. Only in the instance where a card has not had a sale in the last 6 months does a card ladder value receive the lowest confidence interval, which is 1 out of 5. And below the card ladder value, there's always between 1 and 5 green dashes. And you get the lowest level, 1 out of 5, if the sale is 6 months or longer ago. So in situations where a card has not sold within the last 6 months and it gets the lowest confidence interval, we were having people rightfully come up to us and say, these card ladder values, they're not so accurate. And they're causing me some grief because not everybody who I talk to is able to realize that you guys have given these the lowest possible confidence interval. So we wanted to figure out a way to further communicate that in that very specific situation, the lowest confidence interval card ladder value estimate, we wanted to make it a little bit clearer that here, click on this eye to reveal this price so that there's more of an understanding that we are putting the lowest possible confidence into this value estimate. So we just made it a little bit, you have to do an extra click to see it. You can still see it. It's still there. You just click the eye and it gets revealed. But we set it up that way to hopefully further convey we have a very, very low confidence in these sales whose most recent sale was 6+ months ago when we attach a value projection to it. So it's just trying to make a more humble approach to the CL value estimate for value estimates based on sales that are really old.
Perfect. It makes perfect sense. Yeah. So it's only on the 1 meter stuff where the little eyeball there, you got to click. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. You've got to take an extra step to find out what you've got to really want to know what Chris is guessing at a card that hasn't sold for 6 months. That makes perfect sense, man. Okay. Cool. I was wondering because some of it had it and some of it didn't. And I was like, there's got to be a reason. You would know.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
Right on. All right. Well, thanks for the information, Chris. Guys, cardladder.com, if anybody does not know. Cajun, Brian, thank you for coming on. Well, we're going to have you back again for sure in the future. So thanks for jumping on, buddy, and all the best with everything, and keep in touch as we do.
Cool. Troy, Joe, Chris, Jeremy, thank you guys for having me. Good night,
Thanks,
y'all.
buddy.
Nice to meet you.
Take care.
Great to meet you.
All right. Cajun is gone. Chris, welcome to the show. Before we get into anything, Chris, another Chris, CRT Sports Card, says, I've tried to use Card Ladder for T206 cards, but haven't had any luck. I need a 1-to-1 lesson.
Yeah.
I'll let you respond to that, Chris. And listen, we're happy. Ask if you guys want to ask Card Ladder questions, feel free to. There's no reason not to. We're happy to. Chris has been so supportive of Sports Cards Live. I have no issue whatsoever. I actually have an affiliate code for Card Ladder as well. Maybe I should start to talk about that a little bit more. But Chris, what can you say to CRT Sports Cards about a 1-to-1 lesson or T206 cards on the platform?
We love Sports Cards Live. We feature Sports Cards Live in the content feed of Card Ladder. Super appreciative of what you do for the hobby. Great collector content is just invaluable to us. And then second, CRT, big fan of his content. I've been following it going back to the Topps Project 2020 era. So I really like what he's always been about. And I just wrote myself a note when I saw that comment. I'm going to message him and we'll take that conversation offline. I'm very excited to see that comment from him.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, well, Chris is he's a great guy, guys. Check CRT Sports Cards, another great YouTube channel. He, as Chris HOJ just mentioned, for the longest time he was covering the Topps Project 70, 2020, all those things, and now he's completely pivoted over to what is really. I'm trying to come up with Chris with something like how he's comfortable in his skin because he's had T206 cards tattooed on both of his full sleeves now. But he's gone into the T206 content, which is really great for anyone who's interested in that. But okay, so with Troy, I think we covered kind of you being transparent on your platform and talking about that. So we're gonna now, Troy, you're sticking around. You're welcome to stick around as long as you want. Yep. Chris, we had to turf Cajun though. We had to get him out of here. But Chris HOJ, every time you come on, you back clean up here towards the end of the show. You bring a great topic. What's on your, first of all, you always do watch or listen leading up. So I want to understand anything you'd like to comment on that you've witnessed so far. And then what new topic do you have for us to discuss tonight?
I have one comment before the new topics. And the comment is this. There was some banter about whether or not shill bidding could be criminally prosecuted. And I thought that was a really interesting question. And it was one that could potentially have a deterrent effect on people who might be thinking about doing it and they don't know if there's a criminal element. And if there's a criminal element, maybe it'll stop them from doing it. So I thought about looking that up, and I will not read for a long time. Give me a second to read a paragraph or two here. I went to ChatGPT and I just asked it, can shill bidding on auctions for sports cards or memorabilia items be prosecuted as fraud? And the answer is this: yes, shill bidding on auctions can potentially be prosecuted as criminal fraud. Shill bidding is the practice of placing fake bids to artificially inflate the price of an auction item. It misleads genuine bidders into paying more than they otherwise would, constituting a form of deception or fraud. And then here's how it might be treated under the law. So here's the legal basis for prosecution. Fraud. Shill bidding can be considered fraud because it involves intentional deception for personal or financial gain. The elements of fraud generally include a false representation or concealment of a material fact, the intent to deceive, and then actual reliance by the person who was deceived, which creates some form of harm or damages. And then the last thing I'll say, there can be wire fraud, which is a specific and heavily penalized type of fraud, which is if shill bidding occurs in an online auction, it could fall under wire fraud statutes in the United States. So there are certainly reasons to believe that there can be criminal penalties, in fact, harsh criminal penalties for people who participate in shill bidding online, and that should be taken very seriously.
Awesome. And I'm glad to know that, because I said I don't know if it's criminally illegal or if you could be arrested for it and really get into legal trouble. So I love that it is illegal. And Dan says right here, Mastro went to jail in part for shill bidding as part of the Mastro auction house. So I took a page out of Chris's book and I just asked ChatGPT, why did Bill Mastro go to prison? And it says Bill Mastro, a prominent figure in the sports card hobby and former owner of Mastro Auctions, went to prison in 2013 after pleading guilty to fraud charges. His crimes included shill bidding, in parentheses, artificially inflating auction prices to deceive bidders, mail fraud, and tampering with sports memorabilia to mislead collectors. It goes on to talk about trimming the edges of the Honus Wagner T206 card. So, I kind of feel silly that I didn't put it together that people do go to prison or can go to prison for shill bidding, and that it is fraud. The mail fraud's a big part too, moving money through that system. So really interesting stuff there. And I love that it can be considered fraud, because that should be a deterrent. But Chris, it's not much of a deterrent, is it?
It's not, but maybe if it got prosecuted a little more, it might be.
Maybe it would be. Yeah, for sure. Turpin Forster says, but you can only prove shill bidding if you don't pay. Unless you're shill bidding from the inside, like Mastro was, right? Like he was shill bidding on cards on his auction house to up his commission, I would think, or make his customers happier, to generate more business, that sort of thing. Linda's first says Mastro is on his rehabilitation tour now. Brian Gray interviewed him it's already a few months ago, interviewed him on Brian Gray's YouTube channel. I enjoyed the interview. I mean, it was fun to be able to watch Bill Mastro and get to see the person talk. I enjoyed it. But yeah, I mean, he did pay I think he paid his debt to society by serving his sentence. That doesn't wipe away, that doesn't mean you're forgiven. It just means that, you're not forgiven and it's not forgotten. But I'm sure he's paid a pretty heavy price socially and all that as well. So yeah, hey Troy, what are your thoughts on that line of discussion and this whole thing just around shill bidding? I'm going to ask you a different question, Troy. I'm going to say, does it even come into your world, the way that you approach the hobby and your activities and behaviors within the hobby? Is shill bidding even on your radar? Is it part of your experience, being impacted by it?
Yeah, it actually, it made me think of something else that very much is in my realm. I'll talk about the shill bidding first. I think, a lot of people have been talking about, to be honest, in my opinion, splitting hairs a little bit. I think it's pretty much as simple as, if you're trying to manipulate the market, it doesn't matter. It's just, that's it. If you're trying to manipulate, I don't care if you're paying or whatever, all these little different things, if it's your cousin, if it's your brother, if it's your auction house, different auction, if you're manipulating the market, that's it. That's the end of the discussion. You know what I mean? You can give me a million different scenarios. If you're not trying to manipulate the market, then I have no problem with you. You have nothing to fear. So that's my first thing with shill bidding, but it does make me think, and I promise for people, this is the end of content creator talk, because I'm sure no one wants to hear about affiliate links anymore from me. But it does make me think a lot about intent, because that comes a lot to my world. A lot of people are I'm actually just going to say what's on my mind. There were some people who were upset with, Card Collector 2 made some videos talking about, I don't even know. This is not even the player, but it was Mac Jones, but let's just say it's Mac Jones, right? Oh my God, I can't believe Card Collector 2 pumped up Mac Jones, blah, blah, blah. It's that 100% in that case, he wasn't trying to manipulate the market. So yes, you have a responsibility as a content creator to present things and be responsible with educating people. But I guess my point is, with shill bidding and content, intent matters so much, because there is people in content and with shill bidding who are trying to manipulate the market. That's where I really draw the line. That's that end of discussion. You're trying to manipulate the market. That's just terrible.
I like that take a lot. I think that might be the simplest way to look at it. And I love that it's funny. We talked about this at length, Chris. You were probably listening in the first half of the show, and I don't think any of us brought up the word intent in it, because that is really what it comes down to for me as well, Troy. So hey, I'm glad I put this to you, because that to me sums up that whole discussion very well. What is the intent? And like LGC here says, paying only means you got caught. Well, it means that you manipulated the market and didn't get caught, perhaps, because you created a comp that isn't equal. And that brings me to the question I wanted to ask you, Chris, because you are in the business of providing comps. It's one of the things that Card Ladder does is provide comps from 16, 18 different auction houses and platforms now to the hobby. You do it in such a great way. So easy to use. I used it all day today when I was at the card show. What do you think? And you probably heard me say, not all comps are created equal. How do you feel as the, I don't know what to call it, the master of comps? No, but you know what, as the purveyor of comps, how do you respond when someone like me says some comps are meaningless? Some, if you were to rank them on a 100-point scale like we do cards, you got comps that are worth 100, you got comps that are worth 2. They're meaningless, and all of the way in between. What are your thoughts on that line of thinking, Chris?
I think you're exactly right. And I think that there is, as there are with many things in life, no substitutes for the subject's personal judgment, wisdom, and experience. There's no magic comp tool that's going to remove the need for the collector, for the dealer, for the buyer, for the seller to be able to use their wisdom, their experience, and their judgment to analyze each individual listing, analyze each individual comp, take in as much information as they can from that comp, and then factor it into a much broader system of thinking that helps them to make a decision. Comps are a tool. Comps can be useful. Comps also can be misleading. They can be counterproductive. For example, to give a very extreme example, suppose that I'm trying to purchase a card from the 2012 Prism Gold set. Hockey had 2012 Prism Gold, didn't it?
Yes.
So let's say it's a hockey 2012 Prism Gold. And the only comp I can find is from 2014. And I'm at the Dallas Card Show today, and I walk up to the dealer, and I say, look, this card went for $50. I have the comp right here. Well, that comp is 11 years old. That comp is more misleading than it is helpful or instructive. That's a very extreme example, okay? Everybody sort of knows on a common sense level that a comp that's 11 years old is simply not going to be helpful here, not very much. But that is only a matter of degree, not of type. If we change the time span to be, instead of 11 years ago, what if it's 2 years ago? Well, it doesn't help to just have the comp. You need to have the context of what was going on in the hobby in 2023 or in 2022. If you have a broader perspective on what the market was like then, so you can contextualize this comp, and then maybe find some other comps of the same card, or if it's a very rare card, find other comps of the same type of card but a different player, or the same player but a similar but a slightly different type of card. The more information, the more context, the more gravity we can give every comp, the more helpful it ultimately becomes. But I completely agree with your sentiments, and I agree with it more possibly than I can even convey in my answer here, that comps need context. They need additional information. They need wisdom. They need experience. There is no silver bullet comp that just solves all of your pricing problems. You really need to bring experience, wisdom, and judgment to the table.
Yeah, that all makes sense, of course, consistent with what I'm thinking. And then I think to myself, if I'm going to go to a comp service, a comp aggregator, as Linda's first says, I'm going to kind of, have to do my own extra research. I'm going to have to drill down into that comp to see how many feedback, what time of day did the auction end, those sorts of things. Is there any thought on the side of the Card Ladder team to add any additional indicators as to how good a comp might be? And I know it would be very subjective, and you wouldn't do it if it was. So you need a way to objectify it by maybe saying, seller with feedback under this amount only, maybe gets this ranking or something like that. Have you guys put any thought into ranking? Because you do it with your Card Ladder value. You aggregate, you disclose your confidence level on that. Would you ever Would you ever do the same on a comp? And of course, there's so many of them. I don't know how you do it all overall, but what are your thoughts on that?
It's an interesting question. I am going to pick up the baton that was being carried a little bit earlier by Troy in particular, who I thought did a really nice job of, and all the content creators here, of explaining sort of why transparency is such a virtue and a value to the content that's provided. And I think that this is a place also where the provision of as much information as possible is going to be that helpful extra bit. So for example, right now, if you look at a comp such as from eBay on Card Ladder, you're going to see the image of the card that was uploaded with it. You're going to have a link to the listing for as long as that link is live. For eBay, they remain live for 90 days. For other platforms, they're usually permanently live. You're going to get the title, which the title of the listing can convey a lot of information. You're going to get the price that it's sold for. You're going to get the platform that it's sold on. You're going to get the date that it's sold on, and maybe including time is something that I'll take back to the team and that we might consider adding that to. You're going to get the listing type. So whether it's auction, fixed price, best offer, you're going to get the name of the seller, and a little known feature on Card Ladder that we've had for a few years now. You can filter the sales history results by the eBay seller's name. So if you wanted to go look up the sales history for any particular eBay seller, you can do that using one of the search filters. So you get the name of the seller, you get the feedback score of the seller, which can be super helpful. This comp that I brought up so that I can make sure I'm giving all the right information here. This seller has a feedback score of 780,000. So make of that information what you will. And then the other piece of information that we've been giving that's a little bit newer, I think we've had it for a year or two now, is the population report. So you can click, it says pop, and then underneath it, there's this little book. You can click that, and it's going to bring up GemRate's universal pop report. And it's going to tell you the overall population report across all the different companies. And it's going to give you BGS, PSA, CGC, any other companies that GemRate tracks that contribute to the population of a card. So we try to give just a lot of information, just within the comp itself, try to give as much information as we possibly can. If we can give more information, at a certain point, there becomes a trade-off between like an overflow of information versus the cleanliness and the ease of using the site. But my solution to that would just be give the user as much information as reasonably possible. Yeah,
I think so. And I kind of forgot that you do have this. I can see it. The seller's feedback is there. That right there helps you understand. What's not there, I guess, is time of day that the auction ended. Yeah. That would maybe be an easy thing to add. That would be really interesting to me as someone who does refer to comps. Again, I look at them regularly, but they're only one input into my decision making as a buyer or as a seller. So, and you mentioned, Chris, that the pop link you have to GemRate data on Card Ladder. Joe, as I mentioned earlier, a Jordan card I was looking at, and I was hanging out with Joe, and I was like, we were looking at that pop data through Card Ladder. So it's very, very helpful for sure. For sure. Joe, you remember that?
Yeah, well, and then I got enchanted with a different Jordan card. So, Hoj actually knows about that one. So we won't talk about that.
Very, very good. Very good. Troy, so anything else that you would like to discuss tonight before? So we have a couple things we're still doing, guys, tonight. We're going to finish off with Troy. We are going to get Chris's topic, and we got Billy Celio. He's in the studio, but we're going to, Billy, I see you, buddy. He's cheering. We're going to bring you on, but not yet. So please be patient. But Troy, is there anything else that you would like to talk about, share with the audience, anything, say to any of us? I just want to give you a chance.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. I just thought what Chris was talking about was very interesting and great point, talking about comps and what all you guys have been saying. I guess my hobby message, and you guys have all kind of said it, but maybe the information that Card Ladder provides is really great, and I use it every day. But I think it's just funny sometimes how people are so married to comps and don't, like you guys said, put it into context. It's just crazy to me. It's just like, one PSA 9 comp, and I don't I don't get into the intricacies right now of how those ratios and everything kind of relate, but it's just, all the shows and in the land of buying at 70% that we now, it's just people cannot get these things out of their brain, or more importantly, put them into context. So I guess that's, if anything, that's the message I'll leave people with is put things into content and don't be so married to just one comp, especially if, that's the big thing. Okay, here, I'll draw the big distinction. There's a big difference between the comp on a Luka Prism PSA 10 and an exquisite card from it doesn't even have to be an $1 million exquisite card. It can be a $200 one. Just know that there's a big difference between married to the comps there. I guess that's the message I'll leave people with.
That's a great message, man. I appreciate it. Troy, thank you. Thank you for coming on. It's great to have you on a real SCL episode. You were on, well, you've been on one before, I guess, but that was focused on the Van City Card Show, which was a great show. And I got to see you there, of course. So thanks for coming on. We'll get you back on, and maybe we'll get you on halfway through the year when you've done more of what you do, and you can share some more of your experiences with us in this audience. But guys, if you're not yet subscribed or checking out Troy's YouTube channel, it's Trike Sports Cards. Check it out. Go give him a sub if you haven't. And thank you, Troy, for joining us tonight.
Definitely. Joe, Jeremy, Chris, good to see you again. Appreciate you guys, and hopefully talk soon.
Take care, pal. We'll see you in Toronto in April.
Sounds good.
All right. Take care. Before we bring Billy on, a couple of quick comments here. Ben Diamond says, fun fact, they're just cards. You can't pay for groceries in the checkout line with a card. Zero intrinsic or inherent value, and not backed by anything except what someone else will pay. I mean, that kind of does just simplify what this is. The only thing, when I hear people say it's only cardboard, well, yeah, it's cardboard, but I love it. Like, it's my life, so it's more than just cardboard. Like, I could say a vehicle, it's only a hunk of metal. Yeah, but it's I drive Uber, or it gets me to work, or it gets my kids to school. Like, it is only cardboard. And I don't think that's what you were saying, Ben, but to me, when people say, oh, it's only cardboard, or I can't believe we collect pictures of men on cardboard, it's so much more than that to me. And I'm sure it is for many of you. Otherwise, you would not be here watching or listening to this with us tonight. Joe, what are you thinking with that dollar bill?
Paper, right? It's just paper.
But it's backed. It's backed by the government but it's not backed by gold anymore, but it is somewhat backed for sure.
I'd trade
you, Ben Diamond. To Linda's first, did I miss the CT scan talk? Was really interesting here. We talked about that before. I don't think we're going to have time for it tonight, Michael, but we may get to that again at some point in the future, or maybe next week or the week after. There was some news that one of the card company, I think I heard Neo say that, was it Neo? I heard someone say, no, it was Dan the Card Man, that he had intel that one of the card companies, he wouldn't say which one, has a solution for scanning. And that's all I was going to say, but I don't know much more about that. So we're not going to get into that anymore tonight, Michael. At this point, Cajun says for me to stop buying Michael Jordan cards. Stay in your lane. You're a hockey collector. Remember your roots. Leave the Jordans alone. No, Cajun, I'm not going to do that. My lane is the hobby and sports cards, Cajun. That's my lane, but I appreciate you. I appreciate your territorialism there. And I know you're just messing around. Josh from 90s Auctions. Cardboard, it's a great escape from work and a great hobby to meet people. 100%. Hobby Champ says that cash is backed by HOJ coin now. That's great. All right. Oh, Lonely Basement says buy what someone will give you for it. It's limited by what someone will give you for it. That is definitely true. And Ben Diamond says, my point is the value can fluctuate a lot. If there's a big recession, people will sell cards to get things they need. Yes, that is, yeah, you can't eat it. It can't keep you warm. You can't wear it. It's just not something we need. Sports cards are not sustenance. They are a luxury item, and we love them. All right. Okay. So Chris, we're going to get to your topic, but we have Billy here as well. And Billy's going to talk about the CDD conference a little bit. So I'm just trying to think in my head now, what should we do first? And Joe, I'm going to ask you, what should we do first? Should we bring Billy on and talk about Chris's topic, or bring Billy on, talk about the CDD conference, and then move into Chris's topic? What do you think the better course of action is, Joe?
Maybe I think Coach might have more than one topic. So maybe we knock out the one that he wants to start with, and then and let Billy just kind of, Billy might have some thoughts on it too, and then we could get to Billy's Upper Deck conference experience.
How about this? Right. Can I propose something?
Please.
May I reply to the idea of intrinsic or inherent value, and with Billy present, and then Billy can chime in on that, and then we can talk about Billy's conference experience, and then if there's time at the end, I'll be happy to bring my topics out, and if not, I'll save it for next week.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. See, this is not a one-man show, you guys. I'm grateful for that. Okay, Billy, you're on. You are on. What is going on, buddy?
I want to hear Chris's or this way. I want to hear Chris's comments.
All right.
Can I give this comment? Okay.
Yeah, you get into that, Chris. I'm gonna step out to the men's room for a quick moment. I will be right back, guys. Chris,
I want you to hear this though. I know. I'll filibuster for a second.
So just talk about something else. I'll be back in 90 seconds, you guys.
I'm currently in mourning right now. I don't know if you can see. I have my Charlie Batch jersey on.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man.
It's been a bad day in the D today. The Lions did not perform well. The Red Wings did not perform well, and the Pistons lost. So I'm in mourning. That's why I want to hear HOJ speak, because I'm still a little loss of words of how my day's going.
I want to hear you speak, Billy, and I want to hear about what that conference was like. And the last time I heard you speak, Billy, we were all together at the Mint Collective, I think it was, and we shared a great laugh, actually, if you remember that.
I was tempted to do it, but I'm like, I can't reuse a joke. My joke today is the fact that, look, I'm a tier 3 guest. Like, HOJ, you are tier 1. So I know where I stand in the pecking order. So
I think Jeremy would agree, and Joe too. You are the highest tier guest. You are tier 0.
You're on the inside.
By Jeremy, do you mean Jay up there? Because do you mind if I call you Jay? Because I hear that's what you call people higher up. You call them Jay instead of calling them by their real name.
What?
Just listen to some other podcasts. You'll get that joke.
I don't know what you're talking about, but okay.
Some people like to call my boss Jay instead of Jason.
Oh, I did hear that actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just can I call you Jay the rest of the night? Is that appropriate?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah.
That was on the Gong Show, I believe, right?
No, it was someplace else.
Okay. No, I don't think I know what you're getting at, but anyway, okay. I'm sorry about your Detroit Lions, Billy.
It's tough.
I'm sorry about the Detroit Lions. Okay, so what were we gonna do? Chris, you were gonna talk about inherent value and that kind of thing.
I'm not going to dispute it. I'm just going to reply to it because I heard this quote on a podcast a long time ago, and I wrote it down and I went into my phone to grab it, and it's from a philosopher of games named the philosopher's name is C. Wynn. And he's a professor in Utah, but his specialty is the philosophy of games. And so if you're willing to see card collecting as a sort of game, which I do see it as a sort of game, then you'll like this quote and it'll be applicable. And he here is actually quoting a different philosopher named Suits, but that's not the point here. Here's the quote. Imagine utopia. Imagine you are in utopia where you've solved all of your life's practical problems. You are in a utopian place in your perfect state. If you were in that utopia, what would you do with your time? All of your problems are solved. So all you have left to do here is just figure out what to do in your utopia. And Wynn suggests what you would do. You would play games, or else you would just be eternally bored. Therefore, if games are what you would do in utopia, then games actually must be the meaning of life. Nothing less than that.
Wow.
So that's when people have observations, which I do agree with, which is that cards don't have inherent value. They don't. But there's also a totally different side of the coin which says games that are done purely for the recreation and the love of that game might actually be the meaning of life when we crack it and boil it all down.
I love that. That's kind of mind blowing, Chris. Like that's one of those things that can, sort of change your way of thinking as we go through our journeys of life. And you kind of think about what is important for you in life and how are you spending your time. That's really interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Okay. Well, if there's no, actually, I want to get Joe's thoughts on that too. And Hockey does. Hockey says, I think we need more Joe. He provides scholarly content along with Jeremy. He throws me in there. I appreciate that, Hockey. But I know that Joe has me. Joe provides scholarly content. Chris does too. But Joe, what do you think about what Chris just said?
Well, I think play does have both sort of historical and intuitive brilliance about it. When you look at cultures from, many eons ago, there's always some understanding of, and play can be different things for different people. For sports cards collectors, I think play involves obviously looking at your cards, sorting your cards, trading your cards, hence trading cards. And then, what better party than all these friends or connections you have coming into one space together, and you don't know who you're going to bump into. You don't know what kind of card you're going to see. For many of us, that is a little bit of heaven on earth. And earth isn't too heavenly these days. So I agree. And I'll take that to the bank.
Yeah. And, so Michael here says the problem with that is that utopia doesn't exist. Well, not in physical form, but I think it does exist in each of our minds. It's like when you are, it's almost like, what was that book? The Zone. Remember that book, The Zone? When you're in the zone, you're kind of feeling it. I think that utopia is similar to the zone, right? Sometimes when you're living in the moment, you are just loving your existence. And nothing going on in the outer world is bringing you down or stressing you out or causing you to have any negative feelings. And I think that that's what utopia really is. So I think it doesn't matter that it doesn't exist. To me, that's a moot point. What's important is that we are able to imagine it and strive for something that is as close to it as we can get in our own heads. I'll leave that one at that for now. Mookie says, Hoj and Joe earning their co-producer credits. Yes, they are. Hobby Champ says, of course, cards have intrinsic value. Chris literally built a house of Jordans, which is great. Christina's PC just shouts out a yeah, man. I don't know what that's related to, but Christina's PC does shout out, yeah, man. And I'm going to take this opportunity to formally invite Christina's PC to be a future guest on the show in the near term here, Christina, if you're still listening, and not when Chris is on. Separate from when I want you on. I want y'all to myself. So if you're up for it, let me know. Maybe I should have done this privately so I don't put her on the spot, Chris, but I did, and I apologize to you for that, Christina, if at all. But hope she's been on before. I'm sure she'll come on again. I hope you will. Producer Louie, producer on the Hockey Cards Gong Show and a key part of that team. He loves you, Billy. He just loves you. My favorite tier 3 guest. You guys were talking about tears? Oh my God, when I went to the bathroom, good God, I can't go to the bathroom ever again. Okay, and then we have Professor says for Billy, when will the Batman Superman red PMGs be coming out, Billy? And maybe this is a good transition into what happened at the Upper Deck CDD conference to bring a little bit of hobby news to the audience, Billy, but please jump in.
Hey, well, thank you. And it's tough to follow Hoj, I'm telling you right now. Friend of mine, and I always love talking with him at late night on Clubhouse. He's top notch. So yeah, we just had our CDD conference in Orlando, and it was a lot of information for a lot of people. And obviously everybody knows we have the hockey license, and we have done a great job of building sets and listening to our consumer base and working on those sets and fixing those sets and all that stuff. But what I'm really excited about is some of the new licenses that we're working with. And like you just mentioned, one of those is DC. One of the things that I'm extremely proud of working at Upper Deck is our president, Jason, is very proactive when it comes to certain things. When we found out that that Fanatics had gotten the baseball license, you know, Jason's on a flight to New York talking with the NHL president, the Players Association and the league and stuff, and making sure to establish the relationship with them. And one of the other things that he did, you know, we previously had a Marvel license. It's something that obviously we would love to still have, but he was very proactive in that situation also with the possibilities of us losing the Marvel license. He went out and got the DC license before we even got the Marvel license, or before we lost the Marvel license. We could have had both at the same time, but doing that was just amazing because the DC license has not had the Upper Deck treatment. And what I mean by that is there are so many iconic brands and so many iconic sets that we have built in the Marvel universe that we are so excited to bring to the DC world. And a fun fact is 2 out of the top 3 superheroes are actually DC heroes. You have Superman and Batman and Spider-Man are the top 3. So the fact that DC holds 2 of the top 3 superheroes, and that we can start building sets that we are accustomed to building with that license, we're so excited. And the fact that they haven't seen this sort of thing, DC's not seen a Metal Universe before. DC has not seen a Fleer Ultra or a Masterpiece or any of those type of sets. So I can't imagine the excitement, because to see it at the CDD conference, the excitement over the potential of what we can do with the DC license. And that's just one of the licenses I'm talking about. Hopefully we'll be able to talk about the PWHL here real soon too, because that's another one that is actually a really big deal for us. And we're really excited about that league also.
Cool, man. That's the Professional Women's Hockey League, which, yeah, I'm not going to say anything negative about it, but I don't know the team names or any of the player names. Hopefully Upper Deck being involved, and it maybe that will help me become more interested in women's hockey. You know, it's possible. I don't know, but let me ask Chris really quick, Chris, because, you know, obviously Caitlin Clark is, you know, a darling of the hobby. Were you interested in women's basketball before there were women's basketball cards, or did women's basketball cards help you become interested in women's basketball itself?
Yeah, I mean, Caitlin Clark, the phenomenon of Caitlin Clark was 99.9% of my impetus of taking an interest in WNBA cards. But once the spark has occurred, once your interest has been piqued, you find yourself going down all sorts of rabbit holes. And, you know, it might start with, Caitlin Clark is this cultural phenomenon and I'm interested in her cards. But you know me, like by the time I've thought about it for a week, I've already made a GOAT pyramid for WNBA players. And I've figured out and I've made a spreadsheet of all the different MVPs, all different players have won. And then before you know it, I'm like, you know what? I actually like different players maybe than Caitlin Clark to collect if I was going to jump into WNBA, like maybe a Breanna Stewart, or the one that I really kind of landed on was Asia Wilson, because she has 4 total MVPs. You only need 2 more to have a tie for the most in WNBA history, and she's like at the peak of her career right now. So like once you go down that rabbit hole, and that's why like as Billy was sort of talking, and like I'm not super familiar with comics, but I know a bit, and so I started looking up all the characters who were in the Marvel and the DC universe. And I'm just like looking at these collages of all these different characters and IP opportunities that are going to exist. And like, that's just going to be a whole different rabbit hole for people to go down once that spark happens and these sets start coming out. I mean, Metal Universe with that stuff, like it's unbelievable.
Right on. Yeah, it is fun stuff. And Billy, I want to do a couple of comments about that you're going to respond to. But the first one was Lonely Basement Baseball Cards. Talking about Utopia, says, I had Utopia on in television. Well, Lonely Basement, I remember that game very well. I remember playing Utopia on television in the mid 80s at my friend Neil's house. Oh my gosh, what a memory. That to me was the best game going in those, those days of like Atari, ColecoVision, and television, the Atari 2600. Utopia to me at the time, I feel was the best game going. Timepiece, no, we have not talked about Cblez betting scam scandal come up. I do not know anything about that. I've seen but not looked into what it is. So no, and I don't think we are not going to talk about it. It's not sports card related. Builder Blue says, I heard a lot about the conference, Billy, and I'm anxious about the next roster, especially the return of Stature, which is a hockey product. Billy, can you respond to that?
Yeah, so Stature it's going to be actually a double rookie class. It's going to be a double year set. It's going to have 23-24 and 24-25. It was just a matter of being able to build that set the way we wanted it and for the consumer. And it took a little longer than we thought. So we decided to, it's one of our most popular sets. It's a beautiful set. It's on the styrene chrome and everybody loves it. And so it was just a matter of being able to produce that product properly for the consumer. So we have accomplished that, and we are super excited to announce the dual rookie class. So not only you get the Celebrini rookie cards, but you're going to get the Connor Bedard rookie cards all in the same year, which we're really excited about. And the consumer, that's probably one of the most popular questions I heard is when is Stature coming out? So we're happy to say it is coming out. It's going to be 24-25, and it's a dual rookie class.
No, oh, that's pretty cool. Skeppy here said 1991 Fleer did change the hobby. It told us yellow cards with a horrible design was a bad idea. And I remember that's when I had an LPS, and I thought that these things were just so darn ugly. Ben Burrow says, could also argue the Joker is the most iconic super villain. Yeah, that makes sense. And Hobby Champ says he has the entire 91 Fleer baseball set tattooed on his torso. Totally worth it. The one rookie card from set really sets it apart from most other sets. Send pictures, please. That would be interesting to see for sure, Hobby Champs. Okay. Builder Blue, thank you for that. I'm not even blinking about grabbing a case of Stature. Lapper says Bedard and Celebrini in the same year, Billy? I think that's what that's asking.
Yes.
Yes. You're saying yes. So it's a double rookie class in one product. Okay, got it. And that'll be interesting to see how the hobby responds to our both years rookie cards, even though it's a 24-25 product, or the 23 or the 2023 rookies active. They're in the product. It's the first time they're in the product. How do you think hobby is going to respond to that, Billy?
It's not our first time doing double rookie class, and obviously we've dealt with it in different situations. We dealt with Reichs, and we've dealt with it with just the production of cards, and it's usually pretty positive. Yes, it's unfortunate that it couldn't come out the year of Bedard's rookie year, but we're seeing our competitors putting out products a year or two after players' rookie cards and calling it their rookie set, and it hasn't had too much of a problem with it. So I can't see it being that crazy of an idea to do that. And saying that, this isn't our game plan to do it every other year. You know, as I said, there was a lot of thought and consideration to Stature, and to be able to create it in a manner that works for both the consumer and the producer of the cards. And unfortunately, it took some time. But that being said, I think we put out a great product, and I think the consumer will be happy. And I think from here on out, we'll be able to do such things year after year after year. So it's almost like just taking 1 year off.
Yeah, like Linda's first says, how can Bedard's 24-25 cards be rookie cards if he already has 23-24 cards? And yeah, that's what I was getting at, Billy. I mean, I think XRC might be a better an option from the hobbies, not from Upper Deck's perspective. You guys want to put him in there. It's going to help sell product, and people who collect Stature want they want a Bedard RC sort of in there as well, in my opinion. And I think that's fair. But I think there's going to be pushback on, there's going to be a lot of discussion and debate on whether or not it qualifies as a true RC. And I think that's okay, right? I think that's okay. What do you think it's okay, or are you going to argue it's a rookie card?
No, I totally understand it. And I think that's okay. And as I said, there was no 23-24 stature. So those that believe it's a rookie card, great. Those that don't, if you want to buy other Bedard rookie cards, go ahead and buy other Bedard rookie cards. But I think there's enough people out there that are going to appreciate that this is his first stature card.
Let's get Chris's thoughts on this situation, Chris, where you've got this double rookie, and it's like a double rookie class is one thing when there was a lockout, like a 405, when you had no rookie cards. So a 506 was a double rookie class. This is a bit of a different double rookie class. I'm just glad I'm glad you're not skipping the year. Personally, I don't care if they're RCs or not, because as Chris well knows, and I know this is something that is on his agenda for tonight, is I don't really care so much about the rookie card anymore. Like the modern rookie, I'm all about the vintage rookie card. The modern, it's lost its allure for me. I like rookie year cards. But Chris, your thoughts on this scenario with Bedard being in a potential sort of rookie cards in a 24 product when his rookie cards are traditionally in 23s.
Well, I first of all want to invite Victor to discuss this, because I love listening to Victor explain his system of analyzing rookie cards and true rookie cards and rookie year cards and making those distinctions. So I definitely await his instruction, and I think he'll have some interesting comments. Jeremy, you made a comment about it that resonated quite a bit with me. It actually made me sit back a little bit and say, I need to think about this. And the comment that you made was collectors of this particular product, collectors of the stature product, who didn't get an opportunity to have the 23-24 rookie class, would like the opportunity to have those players from that rookie class have rookie cards from the product that they like. I think that's an interesting argument that sort of runs counter against the other sentiment that we've seen shared in the chat, which I am sympathetic to on some level, which is that it can be a slippery slope if we start loosening what the definition of a rookie card is. And so I think there's competing interests here. And I just want to think about it a little bit more. But
sure.
If the stature collector says, hey, we wanted to have rookie cards of these guys from 23-24 too, I think that there's merit to that.
Yeah, I think having the player represented is worthy. There's no issue with that. The issue I have, and I think the hobby is going to have or will have, is does it get the RC designation? How would Beckett magazine in its heyday, when their opinions mattered, how would they look at those cards? And now their opinion, the Beckett opinion on RC, just I don't believe it matters to the hobby anymore. It's not like it was gospel one time, so that's why I say that. And Mitch Grotman puts out this comment. He says, "I wonder how the hobby would respond to a Connor McDavid stature rookie being put into the next product, since stature wasn't made in 15-16 either." I mean, that's a great rebuttal to what I said, because the product wasn't made. So Billy, from Upper Deck's perspective, is there a time limit on this stuff where it's like, okay, within 1 year maybe? Because Mitch's comment is obviously it's somewhat out there, but it also has merit for the discussion, because it does provide that other, the extreme example being 9 years later, let's say. So how does that reframe any of your thought, Billy, or how does that come into play for you?
Oh, no. Thanks, Mitch, for the idea of the next product, stature product that we can make. I'm sure people are looking forward to the Austin Matthews stature rookie card. And maybe we can go a little farther back and have the Nathan McKinnon stature rookie card. And, dude, great idea. We'll just sell a whole bunch more of that. I mean, it happens. And it's not like we've had the set for previous years. We missed 1 year. It's not like we're going back before we built the set. It's not like we're going back to 22, 23 and building sets. I mean, that statement was a little extreme. But as I said, there was many circumstances that unfortunately caused us not to create a stature 23-24 product but we did our best to get it out for 24, 25, and we're able to do that.
And you know what, Billy? Like for me, I have no issue with you doing that at all. I also, and listen, like the rules have changed over the years, and I'm not saying I'm trying to think about it, really like objectively without any bias. And I think Louis said something about the checklist. Check the checklist. It may make more sense, he said. And that got me thinking, Louis and everybody, that, if they put out the product and on the checklist it says, 23, 24 rookie updates, let's say 24, 25 rookie cards, and these are like rookie update cards, if they come out of a product that is 24, 25, I think there's going to be a segment of the hobby that's going to say these are not rookie cards. It's a 24, 25 product. It's a catch-up It's a catch-up card. It's not a, well, Billy, what do you call them when you insert like cards that were produced 5 years ago in this year's product in the cup? You do it a lot.
It's update
Cards. Well, update cards are cards that were produced back then, but the player didn't sign them in time to get them back for pack out. Sometimes the player sits on them for 3 years, and then you put them into the new product as an update, but they were manufactured back in the year. That's different than what an update card is in stature here, where you're putting in a card, you're producing it in 2024, let's say, or late 20. You're producing a 24 for 24, 25 product, but you're representing it as a card as a 2023 card because you create, like, it's a different design, I'm guessing, Billy, right? It's a different design. Is that right?
I'd have to check, but Jeremy, just saying, you're saying that as if we weren't building a 23-24 set, which we were. I'm
not saying that.
We weren't
I'm not saying that.
I'm able to produce it. I did not expect such a conversation on stature today. I'm going to be honest with you, but be more than happy to answer all the questions. But we built a 23-24 set. It just did not work out timing wise and everything. So
logistics.
We made it a 24-25 set.
So the design for the 23-24 cards are probably different than the design for the 24-25 cards, I would think. And
I don't want to comment on that because I cannot remember, honestly. I don't have the information in front of me.
That's fair, Billy. That's fair. But
I personally didn't build the set.
That's fine. That's fine.
I'm talking Series 1, Series 2. Let's go.
I'm going to assume it's different. And if that's the fact, then I'm going to give you. I'm personally going to give leeway. And to me, you know what? That's okay. To me, again, it doesn't matter if it gets the RC designation. That's the 20. That's what Upper Deck intended to be the 23-24 stature Connor Bedard card. Like, that's okay by me. But I just don't care enough about it. Like, about those, whether it has the rookie card. The rookie card designation has lost its allure to me and I can only imagine that Victor right now is just cringing, but that's okay. That's okay. Like, we all approach the hobby differently, So anyway, Billy, don't mean to back you into a corner here. It's interesting, and I'm really trying to understand it more than anything. And I'm a fan of what you do. I'm a fan of what Upper Deck does. Not everything, but most things. And I'm trying to see it your way, and I think I'm getting like 90% of the way there. Not your way, but the brand manager's way. Let's say of that product. So.
Oh, I appreciate it. Honestly, I thought if I was going to get some pressure tonight, I thought it was going to be on some people asking me about redemptions or stuff like that. Customer service stuff. I'm excited right now. I'm not talking customer service or redemptions at all.
So let's talk
about my position either.
Let's go back. Okay, so we're done with stature, guys. CDD conference, Billy. You just came from there. We talked a bit about DC, Marvel, all that stuff. Was there any other big news out of the CDD conference that you could share with us, and anything that we might not know yet about something that was announced to your certified diamond dealers at the conference?
Yeah, and by the way, PWHL I think is coming out in a week, so I think you're going to find out real quick about the excitement about that product. those women are breaking attendance records right now. Not only in the U.S. but not only in Canada but in the U.S. on professional women's hockey games. So we're extremely excited. The product is on fire. So just be ready for that. But there were a number of the hockey stuff. As I said, we listen to the consumer. There are certain products that we talked about. SP Game Use had a kind of a facelift, and that should be coming out in the next couple months. But it was getting to kind of a high price point. And here's one thing that's been discussed many times about like game used memorabilia and stuff like that. SP Game Used, which will have a new configuration. It'll have more cards at a cheaper price point, which I'm really excited about. It took a lot of work to get this done. But people always talk about like, oh, game used memorabilia. And they feel that SP Game Used is just like, oh, I don't even get any game used stuff in there. Look, we have some one-of-a-kind games like the Heritage Classic, the Winter Classic, the Global Series, the Stanley Cup Finals, like specific games that are related to these cards. The memorabilia that comes in these cards are related to the cards. The All-Star skills competition and the All-Stars game, we get memorabilia from that in the games. And those are specifically from those games. And I think it's very underrated and undervalued when you hear constantly like, oh, we want to know more about game use stuff and they're not using game use stuff. We did some competitor stuff the other day and I ripped open a National Treasures Kirk Cousins card. It broke my heart because he's a Michigan State player. But I said, just for giggles, let's rip it open. And turn it around. National Treasures. It's something Smith Jr. I didn't even know who the first name was. So if you guys can tell me who the player is, great. I just know it's Smith Jr. for the Minnesota Vikings. Like that memorabilia was in the card. I think it's a very underrated product where you're getting game used memorabilia from a specific game or a specific all-star game or competition with nets, with pucks, with all this different type of memorabilia. That's pretty awesome. And the fact that people are ignoring the fact that this is all game use, like I hear it all the time. And it's just like, why don't they put out like game use and tell us what game it's from? We've done that. I've actually put pictures of the actual jersey on the back of an SP Game Use card from the All-Star Skills Competition or from a Winter Classic. And it just seems to go unnoticed. It really does, because I constantly hear the complaint. And when we do that, when we listen to you and we do that and it goes unnoticed, that's a little frustrating, but we're going to continue to put out that game-used memorabilia for you. So no, we don't put it in a Topps Now or Panini Instant insert. We put it in a set. We put it in SP Game Used, and that's where it's at. And we have a bunch of other sets that is player worn in games, and I take pride in the copy of the back of the cards of Upper Deck cards. But I kind of went on a rant there. I'm sorry, Jeremy.
Well, yeah, no, it's okay. I mean, it's great stuff, and this is the kind of stuff that I love hearing about when I'm listening to the Hockey Cards Gong Show, because you go on there quite often, you get into the details of these sets, but more higher level without the detail. Any big announcements out of Upper Deck that were big announcements for the CDD people, or was it just about?
No. One of the like we talked about some of our other licenses, like we got The Boys coming out here real soon. That set is loaded with like all the top actors and actresses. It's one of the best shows on television. I'm sorry, like any superhero. Homelander is one of the greatest villain comic character television show villains, period. We got The Boys coming out, and we have all of the 7, and we have just about every single one of the Boys characters. So that's a big announcement. We're excited about that set coming out. We're excited about our Bond stuff coming out. We've got, I built our No Time to Die set. Christopher Walken has officially signed the cards, ready to go. We've got other names that are in the works. I can't officially say who, but we have some James Bond's characters, and we have some of the top female Bond girls in the set too, which I'm super excited about. One of the other big things we talked about 2024 Goodwin is coming out real soon, and really excited about that product. It has a lot of top-notch athletes. One of the biggest announcements, which I was super excited about, 2025 Goodwin. We kind of gave a tease of what we have going on there, and it's already been shown or announced. But Nike has worked. Well, we've worked with Nike imagery and some of the stuff. We actually have not exquisite, but a Jumpman card. It's an SP Jumpman Jordan. People complain about the pajama cards. People complain about the suits. No, we have the literal Jumpman Michael Jordan in metal. Imagine Metal Champions. It's going to have PMGs. Imagine a green Jumpman PMG. I'm like salivating right now because I'm so excited.
Okay, hold on, Chris.
It's going to be ridiculous.
Chris, imagine a green Jumpman PMG. What is that? The first you heard of this, Chris?
It is, yeah.
And as the former host of the House of Jordans podcast, co-host, what do you make of that?
I don't. When's this coming out? I don't want to get too excited prematurely.
No, that it's 2025 Goodwin. 2024 is coming out, but our goal is to try to get 2025 on time, around the time of the national. I've seen the signed cards of the Jordan Jumpman. It's so sick. It's okay, I like
that. That's what I want. That's what I want to get out of you.
Sorry. I'm talking
some
about
breaking news.
You want to hear about Michael Jordan?
Yeah, that's some breaking news here on Sports Cards Live, right there, Billy. Thank you for that. Okay, listen, I appreciate the update from the CDD conference, but let's get into some more hobby talk now, if we can. And first of all, Christina's PC says Victor just woke up from a dream, gasping for air, his ears ringing like crazy. I'm sorry, Victor. But I'm not. No, it's not about being sorry. Victor, well, me and Victor are good. He knows. Okay, and I like baseball card curmudgeon said you could give a product a first designation in this case, but it's not a rookie card. Simple from my view. Okay, fair enough. We're not going to get into any further discussion, but appreciate the comment there. Okay, we have a question for Joe from Hockey. He says, Joe, what are your thoughts on the TCG fights at the Los Angeles Costco? And I saw that video. I forget. Someone sent me that. What are your thoughts on that, Joe? Let's get everybody's thoughts on that. We'll start with Joe.
Humanity at its finest.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Costco has had precedents to manage, insane people storming their doors, but apparently they're not quite as in touch with the current Pokemon card market. So I think now they are, and probably something will happen. But no, I don't have a whole lot of thoughts other than that.
Chris, anything on that?
Yeah, I'm just not sure if every retailer that's going to carry super hot products is properly equipped for how to ensure a fair allocation of those items. But I do know for sure that people fighting each other and the strongest or the toughest person beating up everybody else and being the one to get them is not the fair way to allocate them. And there are other areas of this hobby where more effort has been put into the fairness of it, like the reverse blind Dutch auction is one way to sort of try and give everybody an equal chance to get it and bid what they think it's worth. Or you could do like a random allocation, like everybody wants one of these, sign up, and then we'll try to randomly allocate them. Or there's probably other ideas that I'm not thinking of or that I'm just not aware of. But we cannot have the means of distribution being who beats up the other people or hurts the other people and gets there first.
Yeah, Billy, any thoughts on it? I mean, coming from a manufacturer's mindset?
I agree with Hoj about allocation and all that stuff, but I will say, technically the guy had his hands around the guy's waist. So, like he's already grabbing him. So is that assault? So the elbow after the guy grabbing him, like, I don't know. It's
self-defense, Billy?
Yeah, but no, it honestly, it reminds me a little bit of COVID times, which was unfortunate. But I, as much as you'd like to sit there and say these people will figure out ways to distribute this stuff, then you get an employee that all of a sudden like it becomes friends with somebody. It's tough for those retail stores. I don't know. I mean, these guys are getting paid minimal dollars, and it's unfortunate.
But listen to look what Christina says. She says some Costco's had lines and carts pre-filled with the max allowed per member, so not all Costco's were unprepared, and maybe that will just become a case study moving forward for them. The next time there's one of these glittery products that comes out, I don't even know what it's called, prismatic something or other. Okay, I saw the boxes today at the local show I was at. There were people walking around with them, and I just bought this for $300. I'm going to go sell it for $510. I'm like, how about her? I have no idea what that is, but okay, great. And okay, now we're at the 3-hour mark, but we go into overtime here on Sports Cards Live now. Billy, welcome to stick around. Chris, let's get into your topic. We'll spend as much time as we need to on it without hitting the 4-hour mark, that's for sure. But let's get into the topic, Chris, that you were going to bring to the table, and I'm excited to hear about it.
All right. So I'm actually going to weave in a little bit of storytelling with my topic while keeping it short, because we know that I'm not always great at keeping it short. So I was at the Dallas Card Show today and yesterday, and I picked up 2 cards, both actually via trade. One of them is this 1996 Golden Touch Michael Jordan insert. It's graded BGS 9.5. Just trying to get some decent lighting on it. And really nice, cool insert. It represents the Michael Jordan portion of my collection, which is just an absolutely massive, integral cornerstone. And then this is the total polar opposite of really what most of my collection is about. This is the 2022 Prism Black Stars 1/1 Brock Purdy, graded PSA 10. Brock Purdy is an upstart prospect at the quarterback position.
No.
Okay, so we have 2 polar opposite ends. And those are the pickups that were made at the Dallas Card Show. And so it leads into this question. Michael Jordan, for my collection, represents equity that has been built up over 7, 8, 9, 10 years of being in this hobby. It represents cards that I've held onto for a long time that make up a very important core part of my collection, and that I'll never get rid of. Even if I feel like Jordan prices are high right now and it's difficult for me to jump into that market, it's just so competitive, I'll always have these Michael Jordan cards. They mean so much. They're the cornerstone of my collection. Okay. Brock Purdy represents a speculative gamble, and those cards could go to nothing, and I could get absolutely burned by them. But I believe in him. Joe knows a ton about Brock Purdy as a 49ers fan. He knows that I'm really passionate about Purdy. I really believe in Purdy, but he's the opposite of Michael Jordan. Purdy is a guy who could become an irrelevant person in a few years even. So here's what the question is that springs from this. Do you guys as collectors, and the chat too, and anybody who's listening later, do you use the equity you've built in your collection, such as by forming a collection around a Michael Jordan, or maybe around a Mickey Mantle, or around Wayne Gretzky, or around a proven, established, loved, heavily collected player? Once you've built up a collection of them, do you use that equity to give yourself the leeway or to give yourself the leverage to dabble in players like a Brock Purdy, or maybe like a Connor Bedard, or a player like a Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, or an Anthony Edwards? Do you use the equity you've built to give yourself the leeway to do riskier things, to get into and speculate on riskier players who could have upside, but likely have a lot more downside and could literally go to zero or close to zero? Once you have that equity built up, do you give yourself permission or find fun or a strategic advantage in using the leverage and the equity you built up to do riskier collecting moves?
Is it And just so I understand, are you kind of talking about like, okay, I'm going to play with some house money now because, yeah, okay.
Yes.
Can we start with Joe on this one?
You know, I not sure my buying patterns would be consistent in that area. I think what I tend to do is if I'm selling something off, I try to actually invest some of it in my life, in other areas of my life. And then to take the sting off, I'll get something that, for lack of a better word, would be a feel-good purchase. More often than not, I think I would probably be inclined to go towards blue chips or things that represented kind of gaps in my collection, if you will, or things I hadn't discovered for whatever reason. But I would say, yeah, if house money were to come into play, I'm probably more likely to consolidate into blue chip types of cards than the speculative, because I'm more conservative in that way, and that doesn't mean I don't do the speculative from time to time, but I think overall my trajectory has been consolidate into blue chip.
Yeah, I'm going to comment. I want to see if Billy I know Billy, I know you collect Detroit Red Wings cards. I know you're a huge, you love your celebrity autographs, and you've helped me build a really nice collection of that from your exploits. But do you have any thoughts on this topic?
I actually do. First off, beautiful card. I actually have a card like that saved, a screen grab of that saved on my phone, because I have the luxury of having G McLeod in my office to talk to. And when it comes to talking about insert cards and stuff that I want to build, and I want to build more cards like that for sets. So beautiful card. Freaking love it. That being said, I'm a little more, I kind of do what Chris does, but I do it a little more conservatively, and I'll tell you what I collect, or some of the stuff I collect, but one of the big sports I collect is actually women's soccer. And I collect Sophia Smith. That's one of my top players, and she's one of the top players in the world right now. And I have a lot of her like top cards and high-end cards and stuff. But then there's also a player on the wave, because I live near San Diego, Melanie Barcinas, who is like a 16 or 17-year-old player who has phenomenal like skills and stuff. And you just sit there, you can see her play and you're like, this player's going to be good. Now, I do buy a lot of her stuff, but I don't go as high end, I believe, as Chris has gone, but I'll buy a lot of her mid-tier, maybe a couple high-tier or low-tier stuff, to where it's going to go up, but it's not as big of high risk, but it's still a little bit of a risk. So I do like going after such players. It's just, I can't, unfortunately, I get a little nervous about pulling the trigger on a 1-on-1 or something like that. But I do agree, like, you got to take some chances here and there. And it's fun because not only is it like your collection, but it's like you're following that player. Like, I'm sure HOJ is following Purdy because he usually hands the ball off to his favorite player, Christian McCaffrey, most of the time. But it's still some fun to watch this player grow. And if it works, it's great. If it doesn't, me personally, I haven't put as much money into it, but I've still invested in this player, that sort of thing. It's just, I'm not doing it with basketball, football, or baseball. I'm doing it with women's soccer.
All right. Chris, you good with, before I go, you good? Any feedback or questions for the two, for Joe or Billy?
Not at all. I can't wait to hear what you have.
Oh, well, okay. I hope I don't disappoint you, but so, what Joe was saying really resonated with me about going to the blue chips, because I'm thinking about my history and when I have moved cards out of my personal collection and where that money goes now outside of, taking money out of the hobby altogether, because I've done that as well. But like sold cards, taking that money, and it's just been diverted into life things. When I do move cards, though, like right now, I've got a batch of cards that are going to go live on Slab Sharks on eBay here on on Thursday. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so I'm going to get the money for those. And then like, do I put that into my life, like, life expenses, or do I put it back into the hobby, into cards? And right now I'm actually at the place where those are probably going to, that money's probably going to go into cards, because I haven't bought myself like a nice, I haven't bought like a card on my want list for a while. Like, that's over, say, a couple $100. And so, it's not exactly your question, Chris, because you did say like when you build up equity in like your Gretzky's or your big names, but I'm just going to talk about taking equity out of my collection and where do I deploy it, whether it comes from, house money or not. And for me, I'm more like Joe. I do not put money into young players very often, almost very rarely. I remember I got burned. This goes back 3 or 4 years when I went to Burbank Sports Cards for the first time, and I bought a John Morant card. And then he got into trouble like twice. I'm like, well, okay, I can't pick him. Like I just can't pick him, right? Now, Anthony Edwards, SGA would have been a lot better. SGA being Canadian, of course, and I think he's the real deal. Like that would have been a better one. So I'm not adverse to it, but I don't think I've really ever done it. And then Mitch Grotman made a comment in the chat here, which is also, he says, I'm a set collector first, so my house money usually goes towards buying cards from players on my favorite team instead of prospecting. So what I do, and where I thought he was going with that, but it's similar, is like I do chip away at a couple sets. It's kind of, it's kind of that constant for me in the hobby. And that's what I will buy. I will buy more cards for my cut-based patch parallel collecting endeavors. I've just recently got into the 57 Topps baseball set for some reason. I just really, really enjoy it. And I almost pulled the trigger on a couple today, but they just weren't the right copies for me. So I didn't. But, just to like, here's my 5 cards from that set so far. I wouldn't mind picking up 5 more, let's say, the right players. But, that's where it's like, I don't seek out new places I don't deliberately look for something else to collect. It finds me somehow. Like it's just, you know what I mean, Chris? Like something it catches my eye. I'm like, oh, I love those. Okay. Rabbit hole time. Okay. Buy some cards. So like if I were to go sell a Gretzky card, like a big Gretzky card for several $1,000s, that money is probably going to go into a 41 play ball Joe DiMaggio or a 33 Lou Gehrig or a Bowman George Mikan rookie, like, a vintage blue chip iconic card. That's what I'm into right now. But your question, Chris, my response to it would have changed over time. 10 years ago, it's like, I'm going to take a flyer on Connor McDavid maybe, or Austin Matthews, or Patrick Laine, or one of those guys, or a non-hockey player as well. I could do that too. But so I guess, Chris, to a really long way of not even answering your question that well, I will just say that, no, I don't think I'm going to use house money or take equity out of a blue chip player like a Michael Jordan or a Wayne Gretzky and put it into a riskier, younger player who is still maybe somewhat of a prospect. Now, Purdy, I don't know if he's a prospect anymore. I mean, doesn't he have a Super Bowl? No, they didn't win it. Came that close, right?
He made it to a Super Bowl.
Made it to the Super Bowl. So, I mean, I am not going to go put money into a rookie. I have bought one Connor Bedard card ever, in a year. And that's all I need, because I just don't see that. I don't see that value when it first comes out. It's holding. That's just me. That's the way I approach it. So anyway, my answer is no. I'm not going to go buying a youngish player. But I got to qualify it too and say there might be a time where somebody could come out. Like, for example, at the end of August, I met a player in person. He was at my cousin's wedding, and he was a really cool dude. And then, this is 2 months after he scored the Stanley Cup winning goal. I went and bought 3 of his cards. I'm talking about Sam Reinhart. I went and bought 3 of his cards. That is my player PC. Am I super collecting him? Absolutely not. Will I buy a couple more cards in the next couple of years? Probably. But I might max out on 5 cards on that player. So I don't know. I've been talking for a while. That's my response, Chris. Please. give me some sort of feedback because I feel like I'm talking circles.
I loved it. I loved all three answers. I really enjoyed like sort of the common thread, which is the essence of the hobby, which is that our instinct is to sort of go where our passions are pulling us and the things that we're most excited about. And that, as much as I'm trying to maybe rationalize what I'm doing with a prospect player like Purdy, is sort of like, well, I'm taking the approach of, a portfolio manager who would say, 98% of your portfolio is in blue chips and the S&P 500, but you can have penny stocks for 2%, and you should try to capture some sort of upside opportunity, but it should be in a percentage relationship. But really, I'm not doing it rationally either. I'm doing it because, as Billy alluded to, I started watching the 49ers. This kid actually was the guy who taught Christian McCaffrey the playbook when he arrived to the team. I started following his metrics, and he led the NFL in every quarterback metric last year. And then after he went to the Super Bowl, I was like, screw it. Like, I'm excited about this kid and I want to collect him. And now after the fact, I'm sort of looking at it and I'm like, well, it's only really a small part of my PC. And, there is some rational aspect to sort of saying, hey, look, this is a good chance of a total going to zero, but there is the chance of the upside too. So sort of there's a risk management approach to this. I was trying to rationalize it, but the thread that you guys all pulled at and that I completely agree with, and I realize it dawns on me as I reflect on your answers and I learn from them, is that I'm just doing this because I'm passionate about it too. And I can try and fit it into a rational framework, but I'm just doing it because I'm excited about the guy.
And that's where I was going at the end of mine, was like, a player could come up where I do go in that direction. Like if my Calgary Flames, like I try not to collect a young rookie. I try not to collect players on the Flames because they ultimately leave and, my heart gets broken. So if a player came up that did really speak to me in some way, maybe I would. I'm not against it. It's a game time decision on a lot of these things. Now, you also talked about, your portfolio manager would say, you have some blue chips, maybe you can take, have some more risk in your portfolio, and nothing wrong with that. But when you said, I think, well, that's an investor approach to investing in investments. And I know you do this to collect, as do I. And I know we have the financial implications in the back of our minds, sometimes closer to the front than the back. But for me, yeah, I'm not approaching the deployment of house money into other cards as, where should my portfolio go? It's passion, Chris. It's what cards do I love? What set, what era, what sport, what player? That's going to drive it. Not like, oh, maybe I should add some risk to my sports card portfolio. I mean, I'm always curating and changing up my collection. It's a fluid, it's a living entity, my collection. Most of ours are. And those decisions I make on a day-to-day basis of it are what make it what it is today. And I don't think I've ever thought to myself, maybe I should add more risk to my card collection. So
love it. I was looking forward to sort of talking this through with some other collectors. And, I think at the end of the day, I'm just trying to give myself a permission slip to take a risk on a QB when the QB market is super high and he's risky. I'm sorry, Joe.
No. I was going to say, there's a lot of talk about, ripping wax these days and kind of the value proposition, gambling. And I think for those of us who are maybe a little averse to that level of gambling, lighting money on fire, it comes to looking at the field in front of you, the events going on, and seeing where, either your passions or a player is achieving at such a level, whether it's, a female soccer player in Billy's case. For me, I mean, I'm a Warriors fan, but watching what Jokic has been doing over the last couple of years, even subsequent to him winning a championship, it's hard to ignore that statistical accomplishment that he is continuing to do. And so, I felt compelled to get into some more Jokic. Yeah, I appreciate his, behind the back pass last night but it's also just as a fan, I want to ride the wave of somebody's accomplishment in real time And yes, that is risky because we don't know the end of the story yet. But it's also, I think, a little more of a thrill and a little bit more of a fun experience. So in that way, I mean, it's a modified wax, ripping adventure that maybe titillates our gambling gene to some degree.
You mentioned ripping wax, and when I used to rip more wax, and I don't rip much at all now, but when I did, if I go to Trader Night at the local card shop here, back in the day it was Maple Leaf Sports that had one, I'd go there, and if I would spend $500 on wax, I'd be okay, I need to now spend $500 on a single to balance things out, because just the way wax is, you gotta get lucky to get a financial return, let's say. And we have Billy here. Billy's business is wax, guys. That's what they sell, right? So Billy, do you want to kind of respond to any of that from a manufacturer's perspective?
Yeah, just a second. Hey Jeff. Yeah, Jeremy does not want the Connor Bedard autographs we were going to send him. Just send him a bunch of crappy Calgary players. He said that's what he collects and that's what he's fine with. Okay, hey, thanks. Bye.
You're gonna send me something? Oh my gosh.
No, you said you don't like Connor Bedard. I'm sorry. Wax, I can tell you one thing, like, people, we build stuff by the box and we build stuff by the inner and we build stuff by the case. And a lot of times, you talk about case hits, you talk about box hits and stuff like that. And there are a number of products where it's just like, if you're just buying packs, if you're just buying a box, it's a heavy risk, because, as I said, we build stuff by the inner or we build stuff by the case, to where if you don't hit that case hit, it might not be as rewarding for you as if you would buy the whole inner or case, because you're going to get such type of hits and other type of hits and stuff like that. So there's definitely a risk when it comes to buying wax. I go on ePack all the time and I buy wax, and sometimes it's great, and sometimes I'm like, how come I haven't gotten a hit yet? I'll joke with our ePack department sometimes and just be like, I bought this many packs and the odds are this. How come I haven't hit it yet? And then there'll be other times where I buy 2 packs and I get the big hit. So excuse me, wax is definitely a gamble. Our goal as a manufacturer is to build boxes and build cases and inners to try to get as close to 100% in value as you can. The problem is the perceived value. Some people just think about main hits. They don't look into ratioed cards. They don't look into potential numbered cards and stuff like that still pertain value. They're looking for an autograph, or they're looking for like one big hit, and they don't see all. Like, I always joke with, I don't necessarily joke, but I always like when your friend Josh at Gong Show, they used to do they still do they open up a box and show the value of a box or a pack or whatever. They never add cards to the price of value.
They what?
They never add the value of base cards to what they consider a pack of cards to be. And I remember looking in the 80s and 90s, you can still see like, hey, 3 cents a base card, 5 cents a base card, 10 cents a base card. There's still technically value. Go look at Burbank Cards. They're making a living selling those, 5 to 10 cent cards or 25-cent cards. They're doing a great job of getting those cards out there because so many people ignore them. So when you talk about opening wax, please make sure you're talking about the full value of a box and the full value of all the cards that are being printed in a box of cards.
Yeah, I hear you, but I don't, and only because you brought it up. I just don't. I'm trying to deliver this message very, very appropriately, because I do, I have respect for you and Upper Deck and all, right. I like you guys, that. But Billy, I don't think we're going to convince anybody here that base cards are worth anything. You're not. Whatever you say, you're not going to convince anybody here that base cards have any value. And I'm talking about like base, like commons, base card commons. Now you mentioned Burbank sells them for however much and they make a living on them. but they also have a monstrous infrastructure, and they're, it's like because they do it, almost nobody else can, let's say. I mean, you'd have to invest a ton of time to list enough of them on some platform where it's worth it for someone to pay the shipping, and maybe that's why Burbank sells them. But when I or anyone, or Josh on the Gong Show or anybody does it, they're not adding the value of the base cards because it's immaterial. Whether they give it a penny or 3 pennies, it's going to be immaterial no matter what. And the fact of the matter is, I mean, I give away base cards for free on Halloween. There's value to that, sure. Really good value, but not monetary value. Not like I can't draw a line to the money. No, I can draw a line to building the hobby and exposing more kids to cards and being the most popular house in my neighborhood on Halloween because I give away hockey cards and I even get them coming up the days after. Do you have any more hockey cards? I'm like, yes, I do. Yes, I do. Anyway, point being, you kind of lost me when you were adding the 3 cents a card, for the base cards, because it's just so immaterial. That said, people collect base sets and they put them in their binders every year. More of that goes on than we think, than we give credit to, because all we do is watch YouTube and look at Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, and no one's showing their binders some show their binders of base cards, but they're not showing the singles, that's for sure. Some people want every single card produced of their player. That there is value to that for sure. I'm not saying there's no value to that in the whole ecosystem, Billy, but I also would not advise Josh or anyone who does to add 2 cents here, 3 cents here, even 25 cents there, because it's just so immaterial. But is that okay by you, or do you have issue with that, Billy?
Oh, it's great for me building the sets. If you're telling me I don't have to build base cards anymore, because that's a big cost of some of the sets that I build, but I don't think that's the case. And I don't think that's the case because hockey collectors are a little bit different than basketball, football, and baseball collectors, and you know that. And so I might be saying that as a general statement to all sports, but I don't have a license for all sports. I have a license for hockey collectors. And so I do know that the hockey collector does collect base cards, and there is some value to the base cards. And I spoke of Jean earlier. If you were to say that base cards are worthless to her, she actually puts more care and more love into base cards than anything. She cares so much about the base cards. So I think we're talking different sports. I'm talking hockey because that's the sets. Those are the sets I built.
Yeah. And I love what you say about Gene putting care into the base cards, because the base cards are the base cards. Like, they are still a thing. It's breaker culture that has kind of made the base card irrelevant to the public eye, to the greater media in the hobby, and that no one's talking about base. But I could see the Gong Show doing a segment of like, assessing the base card of every set, and because that's something I think would be interesting. It could even cause people to collect more base cards. I used to go to a trade night. Someone would open up a box of SPFN. They'd leave their base there, and Darren, the owner, would say, "Hey, anybody want this?" Like, I'll put a binder together. Sure. Well, I did that up until 2012. And it's like, I don't have room on my shelf for these binders anymore. I don't have a house that allows me to have binders and binders on a wall. So I don't do that anymore. I don't want that stuff because it's just a space filler for me. But I respect that. I understand it. And I want there to be care for those base cards. But some products, as you probably know, don't need them. And you've removed the base cards basically from those over when you go, like Black Diamond goes from a 24 pack box to a 1 pack box sort of thing.
Well, there's a different reason for the Black Diamond thing, and I can go into that if you want. But I will say a great example of a base card is Allure. So that's one of our chromium based products. And it's funny because one of the things I really wanted Allure to be was colorful. When you open a pack, I wanted you to see color. And guess what I didn't have in Allure? I didn't have a prism. I didn't have a refractor. It was base and then color. So you want to know what I did? I put the base on that prism and refractor paper. I said, forget it. Your hits are going to be my base cards right now. And I'll tell you right now, there's a lot of people out there that look at Allure and tell you how beautiful the base cards are because of how we've treated them. And I think we do a good job of treating the base cards, that they are important. Now, again, I totally understand your
those are
logical
high-end
reasoning.
base cards. Like those are super base cards, right? Those aren't just 35 or 20 point paper base cards, which is really, I'm thinking about like series flagship, which people do collect more than anything, but
it's a chrome base card. What's the difference between an Upper Deck chrome base card and our competitors? Every single product of theirs is chrome. What's the difference? Our base card looks better.
Yeah. No, definitely. And you got metal and all that great looking stuff. Okay. Let's move on. Well, we're going to wrap up actually, guys. We're going to wrap up. I want to do a couple comments and I'm going to do a couple comments from the crowd, from the chat. Then we're going to get final comments from the panel. But to the chat first, Linda's first says, I just concentrate on my 2 hobby subjects, Gretzky and Crosby. Can't go wrong. Tomcat Sports Card says, I think it's important to have side quests, such as your Purdy PC. If we all stuck with our main PC, we might limit the opportunity for discovery and excitement. I love that comment. I think that is that's bang on. That's right. Yeah. Thumbs up from the panel on that. He also says SGA is going to win an MVP this year. Thing is, you cannot predict injuries and personal issues. Doing your research is key, but that's part of the fun. Thumbs down on that one. I think that's because Chris is a big Jokic fan. Builder Boo says, question for Jeremy. Have you changed your tune on Lane Hudson, or are you standing your ground? I'm changing my tune. on Lane Hudson. I think he is the real deal now, and he's just shown that, right? So I think he is the real deal. He is a defenseman, so he has to achieve Cale Makar, Quinn Hughes performance to remain relevant in the hobby past a year and a half, let's say. And then Lonely Basement says, my 6-year-old doesn't know what base cards are. He just knows shiny and not shiny, and he only wants shiny. Well, if a base card is shiny, then you win that battle with your 6-year-old son. Gordon Morrison, just seen you'll be in Winnipeg for February show. Will be great to meet you, Jeremy. Yes, guys, on February the 22nd, I will be at a one-day show in Winnipeg, put on by Travis Kanakin, and I'm looking forward to that. I will be there representing myself. I'll be there taking in Slab Sharks consignments, so definitely come say hello to me if you're going to be at the Winnipeg show on February the 22nd. Baseball card curmudgeon, there are more base rookie cards traded and sold in this hobby every day of star and Hoff rookies and key cards than any other segment of the hobby. Say 1948 to 2019, the base star rookie card is core. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Thank you, Michael. Says, great night. Thanks to Joe and all of the guests. Thank you, Linda's first son, Michael. Thank you, Andrew Deutsch, for being here. Builder Bew, Rips, thank you very much. I'll do more of those as they come, but let's go to some final comments from the panel here, guys. And why don't we start with you, Billy Celio?
Not William this time.
I put William. Did you like that? I did that. I just
that cracked me
William
up.
Celio on the show, guys.
Only my teachers and my parents can get away with that. So congratulations. Hey, thanks for putting up with me, Jeremy. As guest, I think I was like 26 or 27. It's great to be officially back. And sorry if I'm a little sassy. I'm still a little upset about my Lions, Pistons, and Red Wings tonight. But I have to learn how to deal with that. That being said, I'm super excited about the stuff that Upper Deck has. I think that a lot of people that went to the CDD conference came back with some really positive thoughts on what Upper Deck has planned. One of the things I forgot to mention, and I'm only going to plug it because I built it, AEW Allure comes out. Speaking of Allure, AEW has been one of our licenses that has just been amazing to work with. And this has been a highly anticipated set. And so that should be coming out in the next week or so. But other than that, I'm just honored to be on the stage with you, Joe, and of course, Chris. It's been a blast, and thank you again so much. And anytime you guys need me, obviously, I'm here. I know a lot of manufacturers don't jump on here very often. I probably am on too many podcasts, but if you want to promote something, one of the easiest ways to do it is do it yourself.
Right on. GC wants to know, is it Celio or Celio? Your
Okay,
name?
so my name is Italian. If you were Italian, it'd be pronounced Celio. But because my great grandmother came to the U.S. when they were doing stuff, it got Americanized, and it's Celio.
Thank you. Okay. Chris HOJ, final comments tonight, please.
Here's my final comment. I want to give a shout out because the last 2 days I've been running all over Dallas, uptown, back up to Waters Creek, going to the card show. I want to give a shout out to my companions on this tour. Christina, Big Rang, Roy, Logan, HB, George, Brian, and Lauren. Shout out to all you guys.
I wish I could be hanging out with you guys. Sounds like a great crew. Good times. Good times. Couple comments that came in. Producer Louis, fun evening, guys. All have a great night. Thank you, Louis. Baseball card curmudgeon. Thank you very much to you as well. LGC's son plays a Celio. GC says you're a real one, Hoj. No doubt. No, my dog, Spicy Meatball. Welcome to the show. Joe Poirot, my guy from Santa Cruz. You want to bring this thing home?
Maybe. I just wanted to kind of toss in the ingredient of the experience. Like what we're all going for is experience, and there's not an experience that's necessarily better than another experience, in so much as all experiences are subjective. So I've had tremendous experiences ripping wax, and then I've had tragic experiences ripping wax, and I do think Upper Deck more often than not puts together a really good experience for their consumers. But I was making the comparison between Hoj taking a gamble on a third, fourth year, quarterback who I'm rooting for and do believe has some of the skill sets to be successful, but there's no accounting for injuries and the ways in which, especially in the NFL, things can happen. So I understand that as a risk. I understand opening a box of Prism first off the line NFL is a risk. Both can be fun, incredibly fun. And, as they say in surfing, the best surfer is the one having the most fun. So have some fun, people.
That makes a lot of sense to me right there. For sure. GC, Joe is the best. Miss you, buddy. Thank you, Tomcat Sports Cards. Matthew, thank you very much. Hobby Champs, take care. All right, guys, we're going to wrap this up. You three, hang tight for one moment. Chat, thank you so much for being here, guys. If you are still watching, listening, you can get this on Spotify, Apple, anywhere you get your podcasts. I'd like to just also thank Fund Your Cards and Mint Inc. for sponsoring these Saturday night Sports Cards Live episodes. Everyone else you see up there is involved in some way on the show, and I'm grateful. Fund Your Cards, Mint Inc. Thank you to them. Check them both out. Make sure if you want to consign cards to Slab Sharks, you can do that through me. Reach out to me directly. Guys, that's it. Fun episode. Thank you to Joe and Chris and Billy and all the other guests that we had tonight, guys. We will be back here next Saturday with another episode. But that's it, guys. Have a great week ahead. If you're in LA, hopefully things are getting back to normal, if that's possible for you, or you are normalizing what's happening there and everywhere else in the world. Guys, thank you for being here tonight. This episode of Sports Cards Live, January the 18th, 2025, is now